Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we'll be breaking down the results from this past weekend's Stockholm Regional Championships, where I think a certain someone had a pretty good weekend overall. We will talk about the upcoming Santiago regionals this weekend. Give some predictions there. We'll have guess that flavor text. And then the bulk of today's episode is going to be our Twilight Masquerade set review, the brand new expansion. Pre-releases started last weekend. The set comes out in just a couple weekends. It will be legal for NAIC. We're going to break down all the cards, what we think are going to be the good decks, and from this new set, all that and more. And then we will, of course, have our bonus episode exclusively over on our Patreon. So if you want to get a little extra content from me and Azul every single week, the best place to do it is over on that Patreon, patreon.com/uncommon energy podcast. My name is Chip Ritchie, joined here as always by my friend, co-host, and then now 7-time regional champion, Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing? Congratulations on the win in Stockholm this past weekend. How's it feel?
Thanks, Chip. Feels pretty good. Got another dub this weekend in Stockholm, playing the quad lax. They were calling it control on stream. I usually don't think about the deck as control, a little bit more like stall, but it's kind of similar. You try and have some control of you control the board more so than most decks, obviously. Um, and even in comparing it to like Pidgeot control actually attacks a lot. So I don't know, control, stall, whatever it was. The quad lax is what I usually call it. Got the dub with that, which haven't really ever played in a tournament before. It's definitely been a deck that's been, I guess, on me and my group's radar frequently for tournaments. Usually, probably like the third to fifth place consideration. And overall, pretty happy with the deck choice. I guess I did end up winning going into day two. Actually, with the deck, I was a little bit not nervous, but a little bit unsure. Didn't feel super confident, I guess is probably the best way to put it. Yeah, going today too, definitely did not feel extremely confident with the deck, but things worked out. And then once I got into cut, hit like some fine matchups from there. The matchups kind of panned out pretty well once I made my way into cut. So yeah, ended up getting the dub with that, which is sick. Seventh regional, like you mentioned, and pretty good weekend overall. Definitely, I think like after doing that trip, I mean the was it the and what is it called? Jet lag did hit me really hard on day 1. I went to bed at, like, 11, and I woke up at 2 a.m., and I couldn't go back to
Mm,
bed. So,
yeah.
I was living on, like, 3 hours of sleep in day 1, and then day 1 into day 2, I only got, like, 6 hours of sleep. So, I was pretty fried towards the end of day 2, to be honest. I was
Well, it's a
not,
good thing
like
you played Block Lax, huh?
yeah. There wasn't too much to think about and too many super hard decisions to make, especially for the matchups. Like, my hardest match and cut was definitely the round 1 matchup against Yuho with the future hands where I had to do, like make the biggest or hardest decisions for sure. But from there, ran into John with the Chian Pao, and we basically played a one game series because game two I got like a turn two or turn three Erica's invitation on a Bidoof, and he just kind of conceded because
Yeah.
I got it before he even drew a prize card, so it was basically over at that point. And then finals as well went pretty smoothly for my Eries, and just overall setup against Hermione against the lost box, which actually had a pretty successful tournament overall. But we'll talk about that. But what about you, Chip? You weren't at a major this weekend, so did you tune in at all to the Stockholm stream?
Yeah, just a little bit of day 2. I didn't watch much of day 1, but I did watch, day 2, watched through Top Cut and everything. I was really hoping as, like, just a fan of the game that we were gonna get the Tord versus Azul finals match.
I mean, it wouldn't have been very
Unfortunately, it didn't
exciting.
come to fruition this time, but
It was
what'd
also
you
a
say?
terrible. It was also a terrible matchup for me, so it wouldn't have been very exciting.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that would have been, a less interesting time for the,
Yeah,
stars to collide, right? But I don't
the
know.
yeah the
I
matchup.
think most people felt like they were robbed of that opportunity. Tor didn't draw very well in his top 4 match, and,
Yeah.
Hermione obviously capitalized.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, yeah, hopefully, I mean, if me and Tord ever make our way to a finals, hopefully it's where it's a little bit closer of a matchup for sure. Because yeah, Tord played against Caleb, beat Caleb and Ryan, in
But they
Swiss
both
Day
seemed to
One
think like it
specifically.
wasn't that terrible.
Well, that's what Caleb thought, but Tor didn't play it very well, I think is what he even said, and played it way differently when he played against Ryan. And then he also beat Gabe Smart as well, who's playing quad lax, not our list, but was playing quad lax. So I think it's a pretty one-sided matchup for because it's such a slow matchup as well. It's not like you can really pressure them as the block lax player, besides like getting a as fast of a Chi Yu as possible, which is like your game plan. But then on the other side of it, board with the controls hard. You got the Luxray, you got the Lecky, so you can kind of trap the hand with Luxray and then Lecky and get recover your resources as well. So I think it's a pretty bad matchup. I think overall, but
Well, let's just go ahead and hop right into it then. I mean, we've been talking about the deck quite a bit. But let's just hop in and talk about, I guess, first the European tournament experience, right? So you've been to, I think, all of the EUIC, or no, you missed EUIC in 2022, right? But you've been to all the
yeah,
other
Frankfurt.
EUICs. So you've been to, tournaments in Europe before, but the regionals experience, this is like a much smaller scale event, right? There was less than 700 masters competing in the tournament. You as an American going over to the event, what was that travel experience like? Obviously, it was a pretty long week because you just went straight from Indy regionals pretty much, after a couple days of staying with Caleb right over to Stockholm.
Yeah, so travel was a lot, but it was like fine. Like travel. The travel itself isn't that bad, but yeah, like I said, the jet lag did hit me really really hard going to day one, and then so I didn't have that much sleep even going to day two from day one. But the travel besides that was fine. Stockholm seems like a pretty cool place to have like gone around and explored a little bit. Of course, like usual, didn't really have much time to do that at all. Because yeah, basically got there. When did I get there? Thursday evening. And then we just were all of Friday just testing, trying to figure out what we wanted to play, and then refine the list as much as we could. Definitely had some back and forth. Actually, one of the things with not sleeping though at all did kind of lead to some final changes for the deck list. So maybe that was optimal overall for me to have not gotten any sleep and just thought about the deck a little bit more. 'Cause we did make a change or two once everyone else woke up, and I kind of talked through my thought process of things I think we should adjust. So we did make some changes because of that, which I guess worked out. But yeah, I think this is definitely, and also like it's kind of funny going to that regional specifically at Stockholm. I mean, this is like the smallest regional as well in Europe, but it definitely had like those more. You remember like the regional we met in 2016, the one in Virginia at
Hmm.
the Alta Villa one.
Yep.
Uh, it like it felt the vibes felt very similar to that. Like tons of space, very open. I mean, we were in like a fairground barn or whatever. There was still that the place we were in Stockholm was still like a convention center, but it felt the vibes felt like that, like a lot more chill, a little bit more laxed, not super packed in,
Laxed.
tons of people. Yeah, a little bit more relaxed environment. So it's pretty cool. I mean, the European scene is going to grow a lot, though. They've been growing a lot, and it's going to keep going into next season as well. So I don't think we're going to get many more events that kind of feel that way anymore moving forward. But yeah, overall enjoyed the event. Everything ran pretty smoothly. No real complaints on my end, to be honest. Everything was great, and I think I'm definitely gonna be going to at least one. And I think I mentioned in my interview or one of my interviews at some point throughout the tournament. I might just try and go to all of them. To be honest, we'll see. Of course, it depends how many like American regionals they give us. Like they cut us back a little bit this season. So if we stay around 12, maybe I won't go to like everything. But I think also like with that as well, it'd be cool to try and win a major in every region outside of ICs. So I might try and go to a Latin American regional or two as well. So
Yeah.
definitely gonna try and do more international competitions for sure.
Yeah. That was something I was going to bring up, right? Because now, after this win, you've won a tournament in Europe. You've obviously won OCIC, so you've won a tournament in Australia. You've won
Yeah.
plenty of tournaments in North America, including in AIC. Haven't gotten the win in Latin America yet. So is that like the next stop for Azul GG? You got to get that Latin America dub.
That could be like another thing to add to the resume. I guess like also trying to win a regional specifically in Australia could be cool, but I
That's a
don't know.
long way to go. I guess it's
That's
not as long
yeah.
for you on West Coast, though, right?
It's still pretty far, and the time difference, yeah, it's still pretty
It's
far.
still
The
pretty
time difference
far.
hits pretty hard. I don't know if I'm gonna try and go to anything in Australia next season, but going to more stuff in Europe and Latin America is definitely something I'm gonna consider pretty heavily.
Azul hits
We'll
up the
see.
South Africa special event.
No, I'm not going to any special events. If there's no money on the line,
But if it was
I'm
the
not
South
going to
Africa
do it.
regionals,
Yeah, then I would be down for sure. Going to just like new places and competing is just kind of fun and interesting. I really wish I could go compete in Japan and China and stuff. I think that'd be just like a super sick experience. But um, yeah. can't do that because it's under, like, the TBC what's it called? Or even going to, like, South Korea and playing there or,
Yeah.
like, anything like that, or Taiwan. Yeah, as far as I know, you can't compete in any of those regions as a
Dude, imagine
non-citizen, so
they already do their, like, Elite Four thing in Japan. What if they, like, picked an Elite Four from the rest of the world and brought them over for, like, some big event?
that would be cool.
Their
Yeah,
Elite the
dope.
Japan Elite Four versus the western part of the world's Elite Four.
That'd be pretty dope. That'd be
That'd be
pretty
pretty
dope.
sick,
Yeah, I'd be down for yeah, any of that more international competition outside of Worlds is something that I definitely wanna try and do as much as possible going to next season. So being able to compete in those regions would be really, really cool as well, but yeah, obviously that's not a possibility.
So now with 7 regional wins, you are tied with Michael Pramawat for the most regional wins, in TCG history. Who's gonna make it happen first, you or Pram?
Prem hasn't been playing as much, so,
I
for
don't
right
know,
now,
he's still been going to stuff, man. He doesn't go to everything like you
he
do,
doesn't
but
go to everything, he doesn't go to everything. Yeah, but he
he's
plays stuff like Arctina now, so I don't I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's gonna be a pretty easy throne takeover from me unless Pram steps up and puts the Arctina down. Needs to play better decks to start with for sure. But, yeah, I mean, Pram winning another major tournament wouldn't be a surprise to me as long as he plays good decks.
for sure. Yeah, let's look at the rest of the tournaments that kind of happened this weekend. So yeah,
We
we're
had a
talking
lot.
mostly about Stockholm, but that was not the only tournament. There was 4 majors that happened this past weekend. There was
Well, I don't know if we call Bogota a major, but,
well, sure.
uh or not
There were
Bogota. Oh, yeah,
there were
Bogota or Puerto Rico, to be honest, but they were, whatever. They fit the category for championship points, I guess.
yeah, there were 2 large tournaments, one in Stockholm, one in Thailand, the Thailand Championships, and then also 2 special events,
Yeah.
Bogota and Puerto Rico. So let's start just down here looking at Puerto Rico because this was a pretty interesting one. Jose Marrero getting the dub with Golden Go.
Dude, that's
Bit of
such
a
a Jose deck,
surprise. It
bro.
is definitely a Jose deck. You know it was max rarity as well.
You know, max rarity, and then he's got, like, Jose not that he, like, does this on like, he's not trying to be different, but Jose's lists are always a little bit different as well, has the 1/1 Rever Room in there.
Yeah. I
Um,
kind of like it though, to
I
be
don't dislike it,
honest.
I don't dislike it. Um Yeah, so very much a Jose Marrero deck, and not exactly the standard go-to way to play it either. Has the Rever Room in there, which is cool to see, and honestly might be the best way to play Golden Go. I couldn't tell you for sure, but uh, yeah, I mean it's cool. I mean Golden Go is like one of those decks where it's like it's definitely not a bad, like it's not a terrible deck, right? If it showed up, if you like lost to a Golden Go in a major, it's just like I mean the deck's not terrible, right? It has combos with the Greninja and the Palkia, and then overall just being able to one KO anything can always put you in a decent spot in most matchups. So
Yeah, Jose did make day 2 with this deck at Indy as well.
yeah.
Had a really good start day 1, but kinda did fizzle out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Jose's definitely, uh he's I don't know, he's like one of those players that I think a lot of people who started playing the game in the last couple years, they might not, like, totally recognize his name,
Oh yeah, a
but
lot of people probably don't know
yeah,
Jose's name, but definitely like I don't know, an
OG
old
player.
legacy player. Like Jose's
Yeah.
been playing since I don't know, Jose's maybe been playing
I think it's like
Majors
2012,
probably?
2013, I
Okay,
wanna
yeah,
say.
a little bit after I started playing. But always gets his Worlds invite, has a couple major dubs, 1 or 2, I think.
I think just
Um,
1.
definitely has some top cuts. Top cutted one of the OCICs as well. The one that Isaiah Williams won. So
And he pretty much always does play, like, you know, off meta decks, like decks you don't expect to see as well.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
it's, it's cool to see people, still doing well enough consistently, like, earning their Worlds invite and stuff like that, winning, uh a decent sized tournament where there's like a pretty solid concentration of good players as well. Um,
Jose's definitely one of those players where it's like if he just played better decks more consistently, he would have better results, but he just likes playing his, like, favorite deck or his
you got to
favorite
respect it
Pokemon.
though, right?
Yeah,
You got to
of
respect it.
course, yeah. Yeah, like, he could be like, he could be doing better if he played m more better decks more consistently, but he just likes doing his thing, and, he still gets decent success out of it, so, like, yeah, you can't really
Respect
knock
for
him for it.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one was definitely cool to see Golden Go getting a win. And there was, nothing else super crazy, I think, in this top cut. There was a Lugia. We don't have the list here, but Adam Knowles did make day two in Indianapolis. So I would assume it's probably pretty similar to this list, if not the exact same. It just looks like a pretty standard Lugia list. Not much really to do there with Lugia. And then Vincent Owen here did get top four with a Sableye Charizard build of Lost Box with the Iron Hands. This is pretty unique compared to things we've seen before, for sure.
Yeah, it's popped up a little bit at Stockholm as well, to be honest. It's actually my only loss was to Stian or Stian. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce um, his name. But yeah, he was playing this with a Spiritomb, unfortunately
Okay.
for me. I
Yeah.
think I would have been fine.
Spiritomb is the
Um,
Blocklax killer for sure.
yeah, not being able to draw cards with Rotom is makes it pretty tough to win. But yeah, that was my only loss was round 3 of day 2 or something. Hit him up or hit up against him. He was playing something like very similar to this. He had the hands, no moon, which is a partner we had seen pretty recently in a lot
Right.
of Sablezard builds. Last format was at the moon, but had the hands, Sableye, Charizard, whatever, and also had the Spiritomb, unfortunately for me. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if this is good. Lost Box is like a deck I'm just like super inexperienced with, but Lost Box in general had a pretty good showing, right? Over the whole weekend. There was 3 of them in Top Cut and Stockholm. We got 2 different Lost Box builds here. We had the one from Vincent, and then the second place list here from Michael Chen, which is kind of what we had more, I guess, like the more go to way that people have been playing this deck. Which this is like popularized from Pedro Torres from EUIC, right? I think is
Yeah.
the person who have really pushed this pushed Lost Box back into the spotlight a little bit. Um, and Yeah, I mean, Lost Box seems pretty solid right now. I think the biggest thing for Lost Box that it has going for it is a lot of Charizard players are still not playing Jirachi. So I feel like I don't even know if that change adjustment will happen though before the format ends. Like I don't know if Charizard players will even it's like probably like 40-50% of Charizard players have Jirachi, but it's
Yeah.
a pretty big it's a card that swings the matchup super heavily.
Makes a big
Um
difference for sure.
yeah, so I'm not sure where we're sitting at with the Jirachi numbers right now. Oof, yeah.
40% in Stockholm day two.
Yeah, so I don't know if it'll actually make a big adjustment by LA, or even Santiago this weekend. So I think Lost Box players are still going to be able to take advantage of the lack of Jirachi and Charizards until this format's over. To be honest, I don't know if there's going to be a major shift into playing Jirachi.
So you were not the only person to get a win this weekend with Snorlax.
Yep.
Christian got the win in Bogota with Blocklax as well.
Yeah, a little bit more teched out. I had like all the cards in here for to cover. Dude, why is that crushing hammer? So someone has to explain the crushing hammers to me. I just don't get it. What
Christian
do they
Hammer
do?
Giacomo is your chance against Lugia, I think.
But wouldn't a second Giacomo is definitely way better than some crushing hammers for sure. This is not even close. My only thing I can think of is like for the Arctina matchup. So you like cheese that first energy, and then you still lose anyways. So but you just got to cheese an extra turn from them. Like, can we please cut the crushing hammers from this deck? Why are people playing crushing hammer in quad lags? There's no way that it's correct. That got to be terrible. But yeah, has the temples in there for the Lostina matchup and the Giacomo, so you have a chance against Lugia. But if the Lugia player plays well, it's not really a chance.
No.
But it gives you like a slight out to like cheese them for sure. And they did beat a Lost Tina in the finals there. So yeah, the Sinnohs are very, very important for the Lost Tina matchup. If you want a
Yeah.
chance against Lost Tina.
Which you guys just chose to totally like sack those matchups, it seems like, right?
Yeah, it's like
I guess
50% of
like
Lost
we didn't
Tinas.
really talk about kind of you mentioned in the beginning like some of the like last second changes and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
guess do you want to talk about the thought process going in, like what decks you were really targeting and what decks you were okay losing to?
I mean, we're really just heavily targeting Chien Pao and Charizard with the deck overall. And then we're comfortable taking the loss to Lost Tina. Because even if you do play the Sinnohs, if they just play Spiritomb, you still just kind of lose. And it was like 50% of Tina's. The trend was like towards actually the trend was lower than that. I think it was going lower than 50% of Tina's
Yeah,
with
it seems like people
Spiritomb.
have been cutting it.
Yeah. So if you play the Sinnohs, you do have a chance, but it's not even guaranteed. And one of the cards I think had been getting more popular in Tina was Lost Vacuum. Usually everyone plays the Artisan. So if they have Artisan Vacuum, they still have 2 outs to bump your Sinnohs. So you can like side lean for your Sinnohs back, of course, but you only have so much time before the game's over. So overall, decided to not tech for the Tina matchup. And the Lugia matchup is honestly just kind of like a lost cause. Like you can play the double triple Sinnoh plus 1 to 2 Giacomo, but even then you're unfavorable. Like this is a matchup we
Yeah.
tested a lot before UIC, and we're just like going to this. It's not even a matchup we were like considering trying to be able to beat. We're just like, yep, just take the loss, we'll move on. So we just went with like trying to make the deck as consistent as possible. Got the double Rotom in there because pricing Rotom is really, really bad. Yes, you play a heavy ball, but first turn, You want to be able to use your nest ball. Also, the possibility of just prizing heavy ball plus rotom basically loses you the game as well. Double Mimikyu in there, just like double Mimikyu plus Defiance Vest means it's impossible for almost any Charizard list to actually beat you, and forces them down to like once they figure out that you play that, they basically have lost game one at that point, and then going into game two, they'll try and go lone Radzard, and then that's when you can just like either attack it with Chi-Yu or just start milling them with Chi-Yu. And by the time they find 5 energy for Radzard without putting a Charizard in place, so it doesn't get stuck, you've already won the game. So yeah, basically just trying to make sure that you just beat Charizard and Chi and Pow. And that's also actually one of the ways that Chi and Pow and Charizard can beat you is just KOing your Rotom. So yes, you have Super Rod, yes, you have Silene, but it's not that simple. Because I know people already out there like you don't need to Rotom. It's just like good. Like it's a card you need to win every single game. So and it's one of the main targets in the two matchups that are most popular, which was Chi-Pao and Charizard, is they just try and go like turn two KO Rotom. And then sure you could find Super Rod, sure you could find something, but it might be a little bit too slow, or you might not be able to do it. It might be a little bit too late. And if the Chi-Pao player is able to just draw a decent amount of prize cards before you can like set up a lock, then you just lose. So there's many games where my opponent would KO my Rotom, and I would go, all right, nest ball for second Rotom. We're back drawing cards. So just try to keep it straightforward, try to keep it consistent. Have the Sandshrew in there for the mirror match, the Pidgey control matchup, like basically any control matchup slash alternate win condition matchup, including even stuff like Great Tusk. The Sandshrew is great, and then also is a really really strong Pokemon to have up against Chi and Pao because they use their Prime Catcher, KO something, and then you bench Sandshrew and they can't silence the Prime Catcher. Or you can just bench the Sandshrew more aggressively. Just make sure you put a tool card on it so it doesn't get KO'd by Greninja. And then that way it stops the potential of like Prime Catcher plus Silene it back immediately. You just like never give them that opportunity. And if they go chase your Sandshrew, they're not disrupting your hand ever because they don't play Iono. So you should be able to just Super Auto or Silene it back into the deck and then get it back out with a Nest Ball. So and then I guess the last thing I'd mention was the Vessel. That's like a card we're a little bit iffy on, but it just helps you really aggressively use Chi-Yu aggressively and
Really
Mantine.
aggressively use it aggressively. Got
Yeah,
it.
really aggressively use the Chi-Yu aggressively. It just helps you just more consistently get Chi-Yu off more often. And then also the Mantine as well. Like the turn, like you just want to be able to, as soon as there's a situation to use Mantine, you want to be able to use Mantine right then. You don't want to have to wait one or even two turns to be able to find the Mantine play.
Yeah, and
So
there was
being able to
actually a
go
situation,
ahead.
it was kind of funny, and I don't remember if it was in one of your top 8 I think it was one of your top 8 games where you,
Yeah.
like, turn 1 used Vessel, and
Yeah.
then the
And
energies
then
got Iono'd, and then the whole game, you were just, like, looking for your fire energies to, like, use the Mantine, I think is what it was, right? Or
yeah, I
maybe
don't.
I don't
It's
remember
possible I
exactly.
shouldn't have Earthen Vessel there. I did it to like just thin out the deck and get the cards in my hand, but it's possible I shouldn't have used the Vessel there and saved it for that possibility. Because yeah, Yuho did play Iono. I lost the energy and then struggled to find them again to pull off the Mantine play. So I probably should have just not used it to be honest. It wasn't worth like thinning out one card over overall. So I should have held it to have the option of combining it with Arvin later. And then there's also like other plays too where you can set up for a Mantine play by like Earthen Vesseling and then attaching to your Rotom or a Mimikyu, and then they KO your active Lax or whatever it might be. You push that Pokemon up with the energy, bench Mantine, attach energy, retreat, and then attack. You can also like set up for a turn two Chi play that way as well, like Mimikyu in the active, Vessel, attach to Mimikyu, next turn bench Chi, attach, retreat, attack.
We saw you, use Flame Surge in the finals to KO a Roaring Wind
Yeah.
just to get it out of play. Was that the only time you used Flame Surge through the tournament, or did it come up another time?
No, I punched a Radzard or two throughout the tournament. Like they would start to build up the Radzard, and you just like go second energy, flame surge it, and then it's like now they commit more energy to it, and as soon as they commit too many energy to it, you just knock it out before they can attack. So yeah, I did attack a couple other times with the flame surge just to threaten Radzards that people are trying to go like the lone Radzard strat. You just make sure they can't do it too comfortably. Either mill like 20 cards while they're trying to set it up, or you just punch it with flame surge and then dare them to continue to attach energy to it.
And then in the finals, you did overcome Hermione with the Lost Box deck and a pretty unique build. A lot of kind of spicy things in here we haven't seen in Lost Box builds just yet in this format. Ultra Ball plus Lumineon, something we've seen in the past, like
Yeah.
over a year ago now at this point, but making its way back into the format here. Also, the Defiance Band, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, Defiance Band is kind of cool. Lets the hands KO Pidgeot. Let's cram KO Ancient Box Pokemon if they
It
don't
lets
have
your
the
Moon
tool.
KO Iron Hands.
Yeah, let your Moon KO Iron Hands. Let's your Luminion. Does 150 get us anywhere? I'm not sure. Oh, we can KO
KO
Ancient Box Pokemon.
KO Archeops.
KO Archeops. Hey, that's a big one. There we go. Oh, it also lets hands KO Lugia as well, I guess, for 3, which that could be a really big way to close out a game. You just like get 3 prize cards on the board somewhere, and then you're like hands counter catcher win the game. Um, that is pretty big. One thing that's really interesting about this list for sure, with the Rotom is there, but it plays Palpad, but it doesn't play Boss, which feels off. But yeah,
Just
it
wants
feels
more
weird to
Colress.
yeah, but it feels weird to not include a boss if you play a Palpad.
Yeah. Also no Raikou as well.
Yeah, which is a powerful loop. But like, I mean, it's kind of like teching for Lugia now. It feels so bad to tech for such a bad deck. Like, does anyone
Raikou's kinda just like a good vanilla attacker, like
PBI?
a very efficient attacker.
It is also
Um,
good at KOing Pidgeot as well.
but in that
So
place does have the Rotom, right? So it's like you can use the Rotom early game setup, right, potentially,
yeah, hold your Force
and
Seal
then
Stone.
that can be the holder of the stone, right? Where Raikou normally was the
The
holder of
holder
the
of the
stone.
stone. Yeah, definitely. And the Rotom, although most people probably haven't seen Rotom before, I will give a shout out to Mike Diaz, who's been playing Rotom V and sometimes Rotom V Star in his Lost Box decks at quite a few majors recently. So I had taken note of that from Mike Diaz, who had been rocking it. Even had the V Star, like I mentioned at one point. It's interesting because yeah, when you go first, or even when you go second, when you're just setting up for like a big Mirage Gate play, but specifically first, it gives you a lot of power to threaten turn two Mirage Gate. I feel like
Yeah.
for you getting some really big plays pretty consistently through the extra draw from the Rotom. So yeah, I think Lost Box is definitely established. It's really weird, but it's like really cool too, right? How much depth there is to
Yeah,
not
for
just the
sure.
Pokemon TCG, but like the metas themselves. Like Lost Box has probably been a better deck even at EUIC than it was represented, and even now it feels like it's probably a little bit underrepresented, but it's like getting to where it probably feels like it should be consistently. Whereas like some decks are definitely, but we can look at the other thing with like Lugia has probably been overrepresented. Top fraudulent deck of the format is probably Lugia, to be honest. Um, yeah, we could take a look at the other lost boxes in top 8 real fast. Brent and Hermione didn't play like that different, I guess, styles of decks, but the lists are pretty different.
Yeah, there's
Um,
no Pokestop here from Brent, only one Vacuum as well, so it's, like, a little bit slower, I guess, double Roaring Moon as well. Um, it doesn't have, like, that potential, like, early game burst that you
yeah,
can get with Pokestop plus double Vacuum, right?
two town store with only two tools feels inefficient.
Questionable.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
feels like that's like a lot of you're like I really like a skateboard, but sometimes I like the Forest Seal Stone as well, or I really want to find Forest Seals. Like it just feels like a lot invested. It feels like you should almost run a second of one of the tools before the second town store. But I guess is there like a specific stadium that maybe Brent wanted access to
So
removing?
not
Um,
really. I mean, and if you did, maybe I mean, would it, I guess, like, do you not wanna give your opponent Artisan? Would that be the argument there? Do you not wanna give your
or
opponent
stop, I guess. Yeah, true.
Pokestop?
Maybe that is like the full thought process there. That list actually, when I saw that the list fully from Brent, this list really reminds me of Brent's Rayquaza Lost Box list, where it was like just good, just cards that make the deck function and like nothing else. Um, 4 Poffin, 4 Nest, 2
Yeah.
Roxanne, 2 Chorus. There's no
Double
stop in this build,
Boss.
so yeah, double boss, like just literally just good cards, right? And multiple copies of them. Everyone's pretty much gone down to the one Psychic, one Sableye, so I guess there's not multiple copies of any of that. Of course, all the attackers are one ofs, except for the double moon, um, in there. So yeah, interesting list. But yeah, everyone's lost box decks are a little bit different. And then there was
Sablezard.
yeah, the only loss that I took in the whole tournament was to this build here. Oh, also had the Cobalion in here as well, which lets your Crams knock out those ancient Pokemon, which can be kind of cool. But yeah, there's the Spiritomb in there that got me. But yeah, another Sablezard. I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's so many ways to
It
play
also
Lost
lets
Box right
Iron
now.
Hands kill the ancient Pokemon too,
Yeah, that's true. It does let the Iron Hands carry the wait. Yeah, it
or
does.
the
Yeah.
Roaring Moon, the Roaring Moon.
Oh, that's actually huge for that matchup. The more I think about it, for the ancient matchups.
You have double Vacuum in this list to get rid of those, tools
Yeah.
as well.
The thing is, like the ancient decks, I don't think are very good, but still, if it's like enough percentage of the meta to like want to play it, that doesn't seem terrible. Also, like I'm sure it can help in the Charizard matchup in some way. Like just having your Crams and Radiant Charizard be able to hit Charizards harder can't be bad, right? So I don't know how good it is, but it can't be terrible.
Yeah,
Being
yeah,
able to hit
definitely.
for 140. I'm trying to come up with some math here. Maybe we are a little bit short on the math. Maybe like it has to be like a three combo attack with a Sableye involved, maybe. But um,
3 combo attacks always feel a little off.
Yeah, it's like Sableye would have to clean up something, get some damage on it. You can go like cram into hands or something, I guess maybe.
Yeah.
Sableye cram hands for 4 prizes.
Yeah,
All right.
but I think it's definitely cool that people are, we're kind what, like over a month now into the format.
Yeah,
We are coming up on the end of it, right? With the new set coming out so soon, like the set releases being so close, but
yeah.
people are
I
still
guess
kind
that's
of, there's still room that like people are figuring new things out. It's not like the meta has solved itself super quickly.
yeah. I guess that's a kind of part of it as well. Is like that is why it feels like this is because we're coming up to the end of the meta here, where it's like on average, we would have like another month and a half for this meta,
Right.
right? This is definitely a short meta. Unfortunately, because the way this meta is developing is making it more and more interesting. But yeah, we're coming up. It's gonna be a short meta, unfortunately.
One thing I did want to point out that I think is pretty cool about this tournament. I mean, this top eight is just full of like really cool names, like good players. If we look at the limitless rankings as well from this season, you can see the top four players of the season. If you go by earnings, is yourself, Tord, Yuho, and Brent. And
Yeah,
all four of you were in the top cut here at Stockholm. And then, like, not too far below that is John Ing at 8, and he was also in this top cut.
yeah, yeah. No, it definitely is. It's pretty cool to see. It's like it's very reassuring. And I think a lot of the players who like, I don't know, like if a lot of the players who like I don't know, perceive the game poorly, and then more specifically, um project the opinion of like the lack of skill in Pokemon. Like this should just like reassure you that you're wrong. And then hopefully this is good reassurance for the players who are trying to get better and actually put in the effort. That it is achievable to be consistent in the game, and you're just doing something wrong, and you just need to figure out what that is, and you need to work on just getting better, and you can achieve this, and you can achieve consistency. Because it definitely exists in Pokemon too. A pretty like there's like a pretty high level of consistency that you can obtain in the game. You just got to put the effort and the work in. So I think it's like reassuring just in general. It's always reassuring for me to see this kind of stuff because it just makes it makes me realize like reassure myself that the time is worth it and that the ceiling in the game exists.
Yeah.
It's just always something really really cool to see.
Well, it's just good for competition as well that, like,
Yeah,
the best players are finding, you know,
consistent success.
consistent success. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And speaking of which, Yuho here having a pretty insane season does get another top eight, and it is with the Iron Hands sticking with his guns after a top eight finish at USC. So this is a deck that has pretty heavily fallen off the meta
yeah.
charts at the last few tournaments. Um,
Did Yuho even make a change from the EYC list?
yeah, definitely, because it would be the same here. Let's
Yeah,
see.
that's
It's probably
true.
not that different
Like
though.
one card different. And Yuho is definitely a one trick for like format to format. It seems like so far, except with
Yeah, he
that,
like sticks with
especially
a deck. Yeah.
yeah, especially as far as his. I mean, this is probably like he's like like if you had to put a term to it, like the breakout player of the year is Yuho
I
for
think so,
sure.
yeah, for sure.
Like not
I
even
feel that.
close, right?
His one change from EIC, he cut the technical machine crisis
No,
punch
not that punch. That's
in
the coolest
favor of the
card.
4th Iono. Literal one card change.
That's funny. Yeah, so yeah, just a one card
I don't
change.
know
Feel comfortable with it then.
I don't remember. I think I saw this on Twitter. I don't remember if we talked about it or not on the podcast, but someone asked him about the TM Crisis Punch at EOIC, and he said he never used it except one time. He used it with Mew EX to genome hacking, copy Rotom V, which requires you to lost zone tool cards, and it was an extra tool card for him to knock out a Rotom V with genome hacking the one time
Insane.
that the technical
Crazy
machine
combos.
crisis punch came up. So I guess that makes sense why he cut it for another Iono here, right?
Yeah, it sounds pretty useless at that point for sure. Yeah, but yeah, get the future hands another placement. I'm still not a huge fan of the deck, but I do like Yuho's list. It's super straightforward, super consistent. That's what the deck wants to do, right? You are an aggressive deck. You're the one who wants to put the pressure on your opponent and have them respond. Um, and yeah, I mean that's what Yuho's been able to do is like consistently perform with decks that I think generally people underrate, but I think are almost like like reasonably underrated in the format most of the time, but still able to pull off success with them is always cool to see. Showing the skill being the difference in the player or the player's skill being the biggest difference overall.
Yeah. And then we do have a couple Charizard decks here. Fair Succumb with a more traditional version of the deck. I think the standout things here, inclusion of the maximum belt, and then also
Yeah.
two lost vacuum,
Yeah,
which
that
we don't
was
see too often.
I played up against Ferris, and that was annoying. The second vacuum was super annoying. I did win, but yeah, that was like, "Alright, 2? What? Why?" Did
Goodbye
you
to both
expect
your
to play?
Defiance vests.
I guess. I mean, you gotta get through the rotom, though, so that he used one to get through one of my rotoms, and then once the double vest came down, it was basically still over, but it was definitely annoying, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. And then I think probably the biggest surprise, like most unique deck in Top Cut has to be towards Charizard control deck.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we saw like people kind of go in this route at EUIC, right? With like the Regieleki, but this is like Tord literally took a Pidgey control deck and a Charizard deck and shuffled them together and then pulled, you know, 60 cards out and see just to see what would stick. And this is what he came out with.
Yeah. I mean, Liam Halliburton played something pretty similar to this actually at, was it Orlando?
Yeah,
Indianapolis?
yeah, I
Orlando,
remember
I
seeing
think,
that.
yeah.
No, no, no. Indianapolis. He won
Indi
Orlando.
True. What am I thinking of? What's the other one that happened recently?
Indianapolis.
Just Indiana is there another one, or am I trolling?
Nope.
Alright, Indianapolis. Yeah, so that's right, he won Orlando. Yeah, so Liam Halliburton played something pretty similar to that at Indianapolis, and I think that there have been some lists like this in Japan floating around that I had seen as well, um, popping up. But this is like the first time it's had like the success. And yeah, I mean there's like a lot going on here. There's just like, a lot going on. I mean it's pretty similar to Pidgey Control. You just have Charizard as a potential attacker as well, right? So that's like the big thing here is like you just have Charizard as a backup.
It's just kind of
And
like the best big attacker. It also like accelerates your energies into play
yeah, to like
to
the
if you need
Luxray or
that,
the
right?
Chew, the
Yeah.
Lucky, whatever it might be, yeah, just find your energy that way. Um, so yeah, I mean super cool deck. And I think we'll probably see more of this moving forward. I think the biggest question will just be like, should you play potentially Manaphy to protect your bench? Because we saw that was a big part of the loss, I believe, to Hermione in top four, right? Was not playing the Manaphy. Just
Yeah.
kind of got picked apart. Also, apparently, he didn't draw very well, right? Kind of drew a little bit slow. But that is kind of one of the sacrifices with this deck. Like, we look at the list, still has the four Arvin, but only two Buddy Poffin instead of like the four that most people had been playing. You have less copies of everything. So that leads to just like less chance of just being able to do what you want to do. You have more things you can do, but you're not going to be able to do uh, specific things as consistently, of course, right? And I'd really felt that with like the Pidgey control deck that we played at Indianapolis. This I would definitely say is a little bit more consistent than that deck, but still, you have a lot of options. But with how many options you have, you're definitely limited to what ones you have access to turn for sure.
Well, let's do a recap here of our predictions from the tournament. First thing was how many Zard would there be in the top 32? Azul said nine. I said eight. Let's get a quick count here. One, two, three, four, five,
Eh?
six. Six? Just
Ooh,
six?
and then right there, there's three just hanging out.
Yeah, literally 33rd, 34th, 35th, all
Dude, come
Charizard.
on, just do a little bit better. James and Sammy, you guys got to step up. Give me a 32 from there. I need to get this 9 and the so would you say there was gonna
I
be?
said 8, you said 9.
Yeah,
We were
there was
both and
6,
then one of those 6 that I counted as well was Tord's deck, which,
which
like,
I think
it halfway
it's
counts? Half counts?
I mean, it's a Charizard. It is a
3/4 of the way counts?
yeah, it's got a 202 Charizard. I mean, it's a Charizard deck. You're using Charizard probably to close out most games once you've, like, established your board state. Like, using Charizard to take not like, you try and, like, get through a lot of the resources with Erie and Luxray or whatever, or even
Wait,
GU, and then
I think I pulled the wrong predictions, bro.
oh, did you?
Yeah, because the next prediction is how many people with 36 match points will bubble, and we would not have made that prediction for this
Yeah.
tournament.
Unless we did with no, you
Oh,
definitely just pulled the wrong ones.
I definitely did just pull up the wrong ones. Here we go. The correct predictions pasted into the sheet now. You predicted 6, I predicted 7 Zards in
Oh!
top 32.
There was 6. Alright, James actually let you down, Chip. Shout out
Dang
to
it.
James for having worse resistance than, Nicholas. Appreciate it, Nicholas.
Oh,
Good
man.
show.
Our next prediction was how many Dialga would there be in top 8 after Andrew Hedrick's win? Just 1 week turnaround time. Maybe not enough time for the Dialga to
Yeah.
marinate just yet. We both predicted 1 in top 8. There were none, but Fabio Spagno did get top 32 with the deck.
Yeah, so yeah,
Just
I
literally with
don't
Hedrick's
think
list.
yeah, I don't think there probably was enough turnaround time. I think for LA, there'll be quite a few Dialga, right? It
Hanging
was really
around.
tough for many people. I think the only thing if we had seen success from Dialga, it would have been like a top player picking it up and like going really deep with it. So That would've been, like, the only potential for it to make it there, which I wouldn't have like, if, some really, really good players had chosen to bring Dialga, that wouldn't have been a surprise, and, we both predicted 1 in the top 8. But, yeah, basically, I mean, there's maybe a couple in the tournament overall, but there wasn't a ton of players choosing to pivot over to Dialga very aggressively,
And then our
but
final prediction. What country will the winner be from? I predicted the Netherlands. The Cameron brothers didn't make it into day two, but there were three players from the Netherlands in the top 16, Sander included there, all hanging around. So there was a
close.
shot, but Azul, his self confidence pays off once again. Predicting a player from the USA would win. And of course, it was he himself getting the dub.
Yeah, we actually had US had a pretty good showing for how many players were there. We had 2 in the top 8, right into
Two more in the top
Nucci.
16.
Not yeah, 2 more in the top 16. It's not a bad showing, actually. We had a quarter of top cut. Wait, hang on, it's getting better the more I think about it. US had a quarter of top 16, not cut. Actually, a quarter of cut as well. Alright, that's pretty good. Not bad. Dude, and Yella out there still with the gold. I just realized that one of the Netherlands players, Yella, with the golden go still. And actually, now that I clicked on the list, there's the B barrel in here. Jose and Yella on the same wavelength there. Jose went with the Reverum, Yella with the B barrel, but both saying you need some kind of consistency Pokemon in here.
You know what?
Um,
And the question is like which one is better? Baby Beeprel is like the better card overall, but Revavroom definitely fits the theme of Golden Go so much better,
definitely
right? The
true.
energy, the metal typing, get the Revavroom in there.
Yeah,
It's
I
all about
definitely
the
agree with
good
you on
having
that.
a good theme.
Yeah, I think maybe after this weekend we'll probably all have to agree. Maybe you need some kind of draw engine in there to be honest, because it's
Could this
the
be what
only
unlocks
success we're
the
seeing now.
deck?
Maybe. I mean, it could that's, like, pretty for how many people played Golden Go, these are not bad performances, right? A top 16 at Stockholm, the win at one of the special events.
This is pretty interesting here. Just one Irida in this list. I think Jose still played four, right?
Yeah, Jose had a lot of Irida.
Yeah, 4 Irida, 1 Cypher. Yella here going with the 3 Cypher as there's really just not a lot of supporters in this deck, to be honest.
Have you seen dude, speaking of that, there's someone who's been, like, doing super well in online tournaments with a Golden Go deck that plays 4 supporters, and they're all different supporters.
What?
It's just an absurd list, but they've been I think I lost to them, actually. I don't know what I was playing. Um, did I lose them? Maybe I didn't lose them, but I maybe had a chance of hitting them. But, yeah, just an absurd looking list, but they've actually been, like, crushing it in online tournaments,
Do you know what their name
from what I'd
is?
seen.
What a
No.
tournament is
It
they've
was
done
it
well
was
in
one of
recent.
them was a Doom tournament. They won one of the Doom tournaments.
I'm gonna see if I can find it real quick.
Yeah, just an absurd looking list. Absolutely
Tournament,
absurd.
yeah.
Um, something that was, like, missing. Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, Chien Pao.
What is this deck?
You pull it up?
There's a Gardenia's Vigor
Yeah.
in here. Two Ditto? What
It's
is
just
this deck?
absurd. I don't know, man. I don't know.
How does it set up? How does it draw cards?
Got track and choose. Got 4 stop. Almost everything's an item. Go fast.
I mean, yeah, we're using coin bonus a lot,
Yeah.
a whole lot. Why is there a Gardenia's Vigor?
You can attack with Greninja. You go attach water,
And then
vigor.
next turn you can attack with
Yeah.
Greninja.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's so sick, honestly.
Yeah, I saw this and I was just like, "There's no way." And then someone told me that not only is this list wild, but then someone was like, "Yeah, just it also won a Doom Tower." I was like, "There's no way."
They got fifth in the Doom tournament, to be fair.
Oh, maybe
But
they
they
went undefeated in Swiss, I think it was, right?
yeah, they went
Yeah, yeah,
undefeated in Swiss. They lost to Wancho in the phase where did you make cut?
yeah,
That's look at these phases Doom calls
yeah,
it. The phase where you try to make cut, the phase where you did make cut.
yep.
Nice.
That's right, that's right. It didn't win. I thought it won, but yeah, I went undefeated into then losing in the Cup
Insane,
Cup.
insane. These Golden Go players are just on another level, man. We can't
Yeah.
even comprehend.
They can't even agree amongst each other either. What's the best route to take? Maybe the deck is so broken, that's why you can play it anyway. You just need a 4/4 Golden Go in the deck. That's, like, the only requirement to do well with it.
Well, one of the kind of interesting things that did come up after you got the win with the block lax was this discussion around Erie on Twitter. Anytime a deck like Snorlax that's has like an alternate win condition wins a tournament, it feels like these discussions end up popping up, right? Like, should X card be banned? X card is like, not a fun thing to play against. It's like different than what the game is intended to be played as. So there was a lot of discussion that came up, mostly around this tweet here. With the recent dominance of Eerie in many decks, Snorlax, Zard, Arceus, and many others, could we see a ban happen at some point as more sets are released? I'm not saying it should happen, but TPCI has banned cards after they sat in the format before. And some of the
Yeah,
examples they gave were Belloba and Bryson Man. There's the Performance Flute, which is a card that's coming out next
that
set.
card is
There's
toxic.
Kiernan coming out in the next set. I don't know why this is pictured here.
Wait, what? Oh, to help, like, as a help to the card.
How
You have a
does this
Switch
help
supporter coming to
Yuri?
help defend against all the onslaught of Eerie/Misfortune Sisters because
Oh, okay.
it can't be discarded.
Sure.
Um,
So it's a,
yeah.
a switch. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah,
I see.
the flute's a little cringe, I think, for sure, but, I mean, the thing with it as well, though, like, you have to think about what decks get hit the hardest from Eerie, and it's Charizard and Lost Box. And what are 2 of the most successful decks in the format? Charizard and Lost Box.
I mean,
It's
and
like
Pao, right?
and Chien-Pao, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I saw
Like,
someone talking
I can
about
understand how it's unfun, right? You open up your hand with Chien-Pao, you're
definitely.
vibing, and you get turn 1 Eerie, and you're like, "Well, I just lost 2 rare candy. I lose the game," right? I can get that. I can get that for sure.
Yeah, I think the game has become so like turbo item based over the last like 10 years of the game compared to the previous 10 years. Um that cards like this popping up to potentially try to balance that out. I don't necessarily hate now Eerie, whenever you're so used to playing without having to worry about your items being threatened in your hand, right? It definitely
Yeah.
is a big feels bad to get hit with it at basically any point in the game. But I think it's also types these types of cards being relevant in metas and in the game in general. I mean, do a couple things, right? They can force you to learn to play different, learn to play better, right? Considering when an Eerie could be coming out from your opponent, or like deck build differently as well, or choose a deck differently, not play something as reliant on item cards, or take an item reliant deck and like find ways to counteract it. Like we saw people talking about playing Squovet in their, Chien Pao decks to try to hide their superiors on the bottom of the deck so they don't get popped with Eries and stuff like that. I mean, I think there's like options and things to explore before we just jump to the, this card should be banned, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, like, people just need to learn how to play against the card more so than anything because people are just
Yeah.
making mistakes and be like, "Oh, well, I got Eerie. There's nothing I can do." But, I don't know, maybe you, like the biggest thing with, like, Chien-Pao specifically is you can just, like, play your other superiors ahead of time or
Do you
stop
think
drawing cards once you have everything you need for your turn,
if
like
this was a functional reprint of Getsis, do you think that would be more balanced?
I forget what Guesses did.
You look at your opponent's hand, choose any number of item cards you find there, and shuffle them into their deck, and then you draw a card for
Oh.
each item card that was shuffled in.
Um,
And
yeah,
this card
ooh,
did end up getting banned in the expanded format, but when this card came out, it was, like, not played at all pretty much.
yeah.
And
Well, yeah, it
then
only became
eventually it started popping
broken.
up as a one of, and then eventually it did get banned. But back then
Yeah,
you could play a supporter on turn 1 of the game.
yeah. The reason it became broken is because you could use it, and then there was enough, like, broken cards in Expanded where you would have a good turn 2, even if Gets is, like, whiffed. Like, didn't slow down your opponent or only got, like, 1 item. You would still just be like, "Okay, turn 2, evolve to triple Zoroark, and now we're just attacking," right?
Yeah. It was like a
Um,
no drawback. Like, normally to go for something like this as your supporter turn 1, you were, giving up your setup because you're not
yeah.
playing, like, Bridget or, Sycamore to discard your hand, draw 7 cards, right?
Yeah, the thing with, like, Eerie specifically is, like, it's decks are designed or, like, built around it to be able to be stabilized or stabilized when you use it. And Eerie discarding the cards means that you can just run your opponent out of resources, where Gets is, like, just try to slow you down or make your follow-up weaker as opposed to running you out of resources. So I think Getsis I don't know if I wanna say it's more balanced because I think the purpose of Eerie is to be Eerie, right? So it's the question is just, like, because like Getsus isn't that good because you would use Getsus and you'd be like, well, if I don't completely destroy their turn and hit their 2 buddy poffins or something like that, well, then I just did nothing on my turn. And that's why Getsus, when it first came out, was bad because like it wasn't worth risking not hitting their 2 buddy poffins or the equivalent of 2 buddy poffins back in the day instead of just playing a research for your own turn, right? Also, we didn't have a supporter search Pokemon back then when Ghetsis first dropped, unless I'm mistaken. But now we have
Jirachi.
oh, true, we did have Jirachi, but Jirachi was really bad to put in play.
Yeah, it was 90
Um,
HP, 2 prize Pokemon.
yeah. Now we have Luminion, and we did have Lele at some point when Ghetsis became better, and we had, like, Compressor via Seeker combo as well, so,
Yeah. There was a
um,
lot more ways to find it for sure.
yeah, like,
Trainer's
less
mail, whatever,
so,
right?
yeah, I don't wanna say it's, like, would be more balanced, but it would be weaker, yes. I think Ghetsis would be a weaker card than Eerie.
Yeah, imagine hitting a Lost Box player with, like, 15 cards in their hand with a Getsis, and then you draw 7 cards from the top of your deck, 8 like, I don't know, you draw a
Yeah.
lot of cards.
Well, yeah, they still have the resources, and then you didn't disrupt their hand, you didn't gust for turn, so it's like you basically you potentially get to play a research without discarding your hand that, takes away your opponent's cards, but they could possibly just get them all back next turn,
Yeah,
or the ones they would need at least, so it would definitely be worse, but yeah, I don't yeah, Erie's just the thing, like, I don't know, I feel like too many people in the Pokemon community jump to complaining before seeing how stuff resolves overall,
and I don't think this
um
post is complaining, I think it's just kind of, like, trying to spark discussion more
yeah,
than
yeah, but I feel
anything.
like the general, like, the
Yeah,
thought process sometimes it can be is just to, like, complain or say things need to be banned or they are unfun and things yeah, I think things but I have said this before as well, I think things being unfun is a good enough reason for something to be banned if it's unfun enough. But I don't know, I think Yuri just kind of has interesting there's just interesting gameplay that comes up with Yuri more so than anything.
sure.
I could see, like, decks in the future being, like, really toxic where it's just like a quad Yuri deck and you just Yuri every single turn.
Well, there is a regional championships this coming weekend in Santiago, Chile, and it's probably gonna be pretty big. So their Santiago regionals in 2022 was like over 300 people. The one in 2023 was over 700 people. So, assuming the trend is similar to like it's been in the rest of the world, there will probably be a larger tournament this weekend as well. I don't know what the numbers look like, but definitely excited to check it out. I'm not sure if there's going to be a stream or not. Do you know? Have you seen anything about a stream?
There probably will be, yeah, because Copag, I believe, is running the tournament, so there should be the Copag stream that they've done last
Yeah.
couple times.
So that's
So,
good
yeah,
to see.
and
Will
hopefully they
you do a
give
co-stream, you think?
oh, yeah, I plan to, yeah. Um, yeah, we'll be co-streaming it. I think the biggest thing is just I mean, the biggest question is just gonna be I think the player base will be able to show up bigger than they had last year, and probably could have even had more last year if there was cap space, but, yeah, the question is just gonna be, like, were they given space? So we'll see how big the tournament is. And if anyone's actually going or registered on Arcanine, if you leave in the comment section on YouTube what the number is currently at for TCG.
Yeah, registered players, yeah.
So we
Would be
can't see
cool to
that, can we?
see. No, we can't.
There's no for some reason, I was thinking that there was, like, a way to see that now in Arcanine, but I don't think there is. You still have to be registered to see that number.
I do believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
So after you got the win with Snorlax this past weekend, it also got a win in Bogota, the special event. Definitely very on players' radars. I think that's kind of the biggest question, for tournaments this weekend and maybe even moving forward the next couple weeks here in the meta, playing in league cups, whatever it is. What can people do to respect control? And when is it worth it to respect control slash stall slash mill, whatever?
Um, this is once again, like, a quick turnaround event, like, if we're talking about Santiago specifically, um, I mean, the thing is, like, Quadlax is such, like, an easy deck for people to pick up because the deck's pretty straightforward.
Right.
So if
Not
this
a difficult deck to play.
yeah, if, like, me winning with the deck and then also winning Bogota inspires people to, like, pick it up, then you would wanna tech for it, but I don't know if that's gonna, like I don't know how many people are actually gonna pick up the deck, to be honest. It's also one of those decks that's really polarizing, right? Where it's like or not polarizing, it's just one of those decks that people just don't pl like, it's never gonna be played in huge numbers, it just isn't,
Right.
right? So, I don't know if you prepare for it, like, learning the matchup should always be, like, the baseline, right? Because even if you decide you don't wanna tech for it, if you just know the matchup, um to be able to play it at, like, an almost, like, a fairly high level, then
Yeah.
you can maybe beat it if they just have, like, a subpar draw or make mistakes on their side, right?
Yeah. Like, even if
So,
it's a 30-70 matchup, know what you
you
need to
wanna
do to win
win.
that 30% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not that you win 30% of the time every time you play it. It's 30% of the time if you play well 100% of the time, you lose 70% of the time.
Yeah.
But you only win that 30% of the time if you are still playing well. You don't just
Right.
naturally win 30% of the time, which actually probably would be a good, like, video to make so people actually understand the actual way to,
When
like,
people
think about
say
those
matchups.
percentages.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's not that you just, like, randomly win 30% of the time. It's that when you play well, you should win about 30% of the time. And that's also assuming your opponent plays well. So if you're like the better, more experienced player in general in the matchup, or just how long you've been playing the game, then your theoretical win rate in an unfavorable or a bad matchup gets closer to like 50-50. But you want to be able to take advantage of that as well just through your preparation. So yeah, I would just say practice the matchup a little bit at least,
Yeah.
because it'll theoretically go up in popularity. But then teching for it doesn't seem terrible, especially in like the Lost Box decks, maybe including the Spiritomb. I don't know if I would actually tech for it as Charizard at all.
But going off the discussion real quick, at what percent of tournaments that you play in would you say that you win a round in an unfavorable matchup because uh, you are doing just that? Like you're playing correctly in a bad matchup and are able to like capitalize on your opponent make mistake, whatever it is. Like what percent of
Um,
tournaments that you play at?
I don't know. I definitely win games that my opponent would have just won. I like 100%. I win multiple matches or games start a tournament because my opponent just plays poorly, and
Yeah,
I play, but I'm only able to capitalize on that because I play well or I recognize their mistake. It's not that, oh, they made a mistake so I win. It's they made a mistake and I played well. That's where my advantage comes from. Or they made a mistake and I'm able to capitalize on it because I recognize it as a mistake, or I
yeah.
recognize what I'm able to take advantage of.
Happens
So that
at
definitely
every
happens.
single tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, every single tournament that happens for sure, multiple times. Bad matchups specifically, I'm like trying to think of like any off the top of my head. Like the bad matchups I played against at Stockholm, I tied all of them because like you're never 3 games of what's it called are never
Yeah, that's in
finishing.
part to the deck you played, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like we're never 3 games are never finishing. But I was able to beat or tie a Lost Tina, a Arc Armor Rouge, and
That one seems
then
pretty tough.
yeah, it's bad. And then the third one, I don't remember what the third matchup was, but I managed to get a tie there as well. I don't remember what that one was though, to be honest. But I know it was a bad. Oh, it was a hands. It was a future hands. But they played 2 psychics and the switch cart, which is something that I know Yuho didn't play. And that actually makes the matchup like closer to like 50-50 to even slightly
Yeah.
favored against Yuho's build. But if they have the second psychic, if they have the switch card, like even that just one extra switch card, like you're in trouble. So also I didn't catch that player's prime catcher. They got to use the prime
Like
catcher
you
for
were
the game.
catching U-hos, yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty fortunate for me.
Yeah.
Definitely. Um so yeah, but once again, that all comes down to just like me instead of me just giving up as soon as I see it's a bad matchup, it's like, all right, I'm gonna sit here, probably lose if my opponent plays well, but I'm gonna try to just play well and then hope for the best outcome, right? And I was able to get that all those times on in day one.
Do you think in the meta right now, I mean, looking at Santiago, I guess, specifically, but then also, thinking wider scale moving forward the next few weeks, it almost feels to me like we're seeing a little bit of a downtrend on Charizard. Do you feel that as well? Where, like, these last few
Yeah,
tournaments, it's been 20 to 25 plus percent day one. I feel like by LA, we might see it like 18, 17. I don't know, dropping down even to 15
and
potentially.
LA, yeah, it dropped pretty aggressively, I guess, from Stockholm, but I think the Chien Pao hype from Indianapolis was enough for it to change even within just a week, right? And now LA will have more time to adjust, and even Santiago this week has had 2 weeks post Indianapolis to kind of look at what happened in Indianapolis. Be like, well, GM Pao kind of dominated because Charizard was so popular, and then we even saw Dialga win the whole thing with Hedrick. And every Dialga player I talk to now, I don't actually have an opinion on this. Every Dialga player I talk to says it's favored against Charizard, maybe not by a lot, but is favored, right? So if we're looking at like those 2 decks being popular, now both of those decks are unfavored to Lost Box. And Charizard, if playing Jirachi, has a fine Lost Box matchup. So are we just like in it? That's maybe the cycle we're in right now. It's like, do I want to play a deck that is unfavored to Lost Box? Or at that point, do I just play Charizard and then I'm with Jirachi to stand up to the Lost Box players? And then, like, as Charizard, you're never like too afraid of anything, right? And you could even go like, I don't know, you could add like Entei to your Charizard deck to give you like a more aggressive attacker into the Dialga matchup as well. Because otherwise you struggle to KO Dialgas early sometimes. Because they like to do Dialga likes to do a play where they just punch your first Charizard and then loop it the next turn with the Star Chronos. But if you have Entei, you can just knock it out and like force a more aggressive prize trade. So maybe that's the adjustment we see. But it depends on how popular Dialga is going to be. But I feel like Santiago moving forward to LA will be a uh better look at how the community is looking at Dialga. to be honest, because I don't think Stockholm was a great representation of Dialga's potential or where the growth for that in the metagame will actually go because it was such a quick turnaround.
Yeah, and a little bit smaller of a tournament too, right? I don't know if that really has that much of an impact, but
That's actually interesting. I think it does to an extent in terms of the the thing with like the smaller events is like more there's going to be more players who are more dedicated to the game who are going to go and kind of less of just like the general like you're looking at more higher end players. Like the percentage of like, you know, above average players is just going to be higher at smaller events. Um and I think when you like get those players who have like some idea of like a process or something like that, it would make sense that less of them are just going to switch over to Dialga immediately without putting more time or preparation in with the deck. Maybe. So I would cut into like the players who are just like, well, Dialga's a cool deck and I like playing it. I'm just gonna go ahead and play it at this event, right? So if there's less of those players to show up to the event, then I guess I could see that making a difference, but I don't really know if it makes that big of a difference. Um, but there's definitely been a decent amount of time, Indianapolis and Santiago, so we could see a decent amount of Dialga at Santiago, and I think we'll definitely see a decent amount of it at LA the week after.
well, let's make some predictions here for Santiago this weekend. Let's keep it with the Charizard trend of the prediction we've been doing this whole format. How many Charizard will there be in the top 32 of the event? You nailed it right on the head in
Yeah.
Stockholm, Azul. Can you do it 2 tournament weekends in a row?
Maybe. I feel like it's probably gonna be pretty similar. Yeah, I think start like you mentioned, Charizard numbers are going down, and they did drop pretty drastically at Stockholm, but I think it was like a little bit of a fear of Chien Pao and just like potentially other bad matchups. I think it'll probably be about the same as Stockholm or drop further. Um, I do know there is some players who are huge Charizard fans though that we know are probably gonna be at the event. So I'm gonna go with 6 again. I'm a rock 6 again. I think that's still a reasonable number to be in the top 32. What the
Yeah, I think I'm
same.
gonna go with 5, going with the downward
Ooh.
trend a little bit.
Okay, okay.
Pretty similar though. Stick with the 5. Highest placing control slash stall slash mill. Basically, like highest placing alternate win condition deck.
I'm gonna
Um.
go I'm gonna go with the top 4.
Ooh,
It's
okay.
gonna it's gonna hit a bad matchup in top 4. It'll get a good matchup in top 8. One will make its way into top 8, good matchup in top 8, and then it'll have a bad matchup in top 4.
I'll go with the top 16 for this one. I think it's hard for control to do well 2 weekends in a row. I think we'll see some level of people teching for it. Some people level of
That's
people just
true.
being prepared for it, right? So it'll
Here's
still
a
be
good thing,
hanging
it'll definitely
around.
be
And I
it'll be
don't
a
know that it'll
higher
be as played as it maybe would have been, this past weekend, right? Because people might be scared of people teching, so they choose not to
yeah.
play it, right?
There'll definitely be more people taking for it this weekend than last weekend for sure. So yeah, the anti-control text will be higher. But I'm still gonna go with the top 4.
And then last prediction here, let's pick a deck to win the event. I think I know which one I want to go with. I can go first if you want me to.
Well, I know what I'm gonna go with. I feel like mine might be the same. Go ahead though. I'll let you go first on this one.
My pick is going to be Lost Box.
Oh, okay. That's not
Been
what I
on the
was going.
upward trend, and I think like people are kind of finally figuring out like a good solid 56-ish card base to go off of. So I think there's a pretty good opportunity for Lost Box to make a good run at this tournament. I'm going with that.
Yeah, I think the hype is there. I think people know about it, but it's a very hard deck to counter. Charizard will probably be putting Jirachi in. I think that is something
Yeah,
we'll probably see
it's true.
increase. Like I said, I don't know if it'll fully flip to the point where it's like Lost Box players aren't going to be able to still take advantage of a decent amount of Charizard players not playing it, but we'll see as we get to the end of the format here. But I'm going to go with Charizard
Mm,
because, like I've been saying, or like I've been calling them, the best group in Latin America, from Brazil specifically, Pedro, Ricardo, William Azevedo. They love Charizard. I would be surprised if they didn't play Charizard at this event. I assume they're going. You mentioned we were talking about it before. So Pedro won last year, right?
yes, Pedro did win this tournament last year.
Yeah, Pedro Petrucci for anyone who doesn't
Yeah,
know the
not Pedro
Pedro we're
Torres,
talking about.
Pedro Pertusi. Yep.
Yeah, so I assume they're all going to be there. Um, and I assume one, if not multiple of them will be in top cut. And I'm assuming they're playing Charizard. So I think it's a pretty good bet to put it all in on Charizard. And I'm sure they will adapt their build to the meta like they've been doing this whole format. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Charizard getting the dub.
It's pretty interesting. That's kind of an interesting discussion to think about. It feels like players in general, but then also like testing groups, they kind of go like one of two ways where it's like they're constantly swapping decks to beat the meta, or they pick a deck that they think is really good just in general and then tech it out to be able to respond to whatever however the meta, yeah, shifts, right?
Yeah.
um Obviously your group leans towards the, switching decks trend. You're never afraid to play two completely different decks on back-to-back tournament weekends if you think one is better for whatever the meta shift looks like. But then, like the group you just mentioned, Pedro William, um they will stick with a deck and like continue to improve it. What are like the benefits and downsides of each of those things, you think?
Well, I think like the system of switching decks. It's not just switching decks for the sake of switching decks. It's always trying to play whatever deck
Like, you'll
you
play the
think
same
is
deck back to
best.
back if it's still the
Yeah.
best, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Theoretically, when perfected, that is the better way to do it because you just have a wider range to pick from of tools, right, to bring to the tournament to actually play. Um, Locking yourself in on one deck theoretically does lead to like more proficient play. Um, but if your play level is high enough with every single deck, then having the option or being able to more comfortably switch between decks and just like knowing you're going to switch between decks, like theoretically has the higher ceiling, right? But I think for the current landscape of Pokemon, for the time and effort that people are putting in, it's about equal to actually probably slightly benefiting sticking with one deck. I would say right now, for like by far for the vast majority of players. But even at the higher level of players, for the time that players put into the game, sticking with one deck, I think, has like the edge overall between the systems
Well, those are
on
our
average.
predictions for Santiago this weekend. Good luck to any players competing there. Just a few more tournaments in this format, and we've got the
Two
new
more.
set coming up, and we are gonna review Twilight Masquerade here shortly. But before we do, we gotta take a moment to thank our fantastic sponsor, Dragon Shield, for supporting us here at the Uncommon Energy Podcast. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of blanked on the name of the podcast for a second.
It sounded like you were missing something there for sure. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, so big shout outs to Dragon Shield for supporting us here at Uncommon Energy. We very much appreciate it. They, of course, make the best tabletop gaming and card gaming products on the market, including sleeves, deck boxes, binders, storage solutions, and so much more. We love them and use them mostly for their sleeves. And Azul, you've been rocking the tangerines, I believe, most recently, right?
No, I had the Auroras. I took the Auroras
Auroras,
to
Auroras.
Stockholm. They actually just sent me a restock of sleeves. I got some yellow mats this time around.
I see the
Um,
wall of them behind you there.
yeah, they're right here. Got the restock. So yeah, shout out to Dragon Shield. As always, sponsoring the podcast and then making sure I'm always well equipped for every single event I attend. Check them out at dragonshield.com. Link will be in the description. You use code UEPOD, get yourself 5% off and support us directly here on the podcast.
And before we talk about Twilight Masquerade, we do have to talk about everyone's favorite segment of the podcast, Guess That Flavor Text, where each week Azul or I picks a card, reads the flavor text, and has the co-host try to guess which Pokemon is featured on that card. If you get it correct, you get 4 points, and then there are 3 lifelines you can use. For each lifeline you do choose to use, you do lose out on one of those points, and the lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and read an attack name. And it is my turn to pick a card for Azul. I am still currently winning, to no one's surprise. Current score 24-17. I did get 0 points last week, unfortunately, though.
0
But
points. Yeah. So I am starting to make the comeback. It's happening.
yeah, well, I don't know if that we can say that yet, but all right. Are you ready, Azul?
I am ready, Chip.
All right. When facing a tough foe, it loses flames from its wrist. looses flames from its wrists, not loses, looses. Its
Okay.
powerful legs let it jump clear over buildings. Let me read it one more time because I kind of stopped
I
halfway
already
through there.
know I already know what Pokemon this is. It's
No
one
shot.
of it's no shot, he panicked.
No shot.
It's definitely one of the Chimchar line because they have flames on their wrists, but I don't know which one it is. It could also be Blaziken, I guess? It's one of them. It's gonna be Infernape or Blaziken. The more I'm thinking about it, I think it is probably the Blaziken line. Um, I think I should figure out what stage the card is, so I'm just gonna go with what stage is the card.
It is a stage two.
I could ask an attack name. I'm just gonna yeah, just lock in Blaziken.
Locking it in.
That is the stage 2 of the line, right?
What confidence. This might be the shortest segment ever of Guess That Flavor Text. Azul, you guessed Blaziken. You were debating between another Pokemon, though, Infernape.
Uh-oh.
But it's a good thing for you. You didn't go with Infernape because it is indeed Blaziken.
Oh, there we go. I was like, I know. Does Infernape also have fire coming out of the wrist or no?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, definitely. Sort of.
Yeah, yeah, you could yeah, it could be there, right? It's got like the
Yeah. There you go. That guy.
close enough. Not
But
as
yeah.
apparent as Blaziken. I couldn't picture Blaziken perfectly in my mind, but it's literally right there. The fire is literally just coming out of the wrist.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that was a wow, you locked that one in quick. I've got to say I'm a little surprised, but I'm glad that you had an opportunity to get some more points back. This the Blaziken featured this week does come from Dragon's Majesty, which at this time, Dragon's Majesty in Celestial Storm, they did a pretty cool thing where they reprinted a bunch of old artworks of cards that were really good in the past. So this Blaziken here with the Fire Starter ability and the Fire Stream attack was a big part of the 2004 World Championships format.
Is that the
Whenever
exact same card? Oh no,
it's
this one
the
is weaker.
yes, yes. So it's like they do the same thing, but they're damage outputs. So like we're
Yeah.
adjusted for the times, which the new Blaziken wasn't very good ever. But it was cool that they like upped their power level kind of to fit with the theme of everything else.
They were still pretty bad, but yeah, they tried. They tried to get them a little bit stronger than
Yeah.
than they were back then.
There's also a Ludicolo they did this with.
Yeah, the reason I want to know the stage is because I was like, this could be combustion still, but because I can't really picture
Combuskin.
combustion. Combuskin, isn't it Bustion? Is it Buskin?
Combuskin.
Oh yeah. But does Combuskin even have flames like coming out
No,
of its wrists?
that would have been a terrible guess.
Not really. But the legs are looking pretty powerful. It might be able to jump over.
He's definitely hopping.
Yeah, he's got the moves.
Yeah, and they even reprinted like the Combuskin is the same artwork as the Combuskin from back then as well.
Yeah.
I always think it's cool whenever it's like they do things that have references to the
Those
older
cards are
cards.
those cards are never good though, right? I wish they would actually make some of them good sometimes. Are they ever
Yeah.
good?
Well, it's just like the game has changed so much, right? Like a great example of this was Dunsparce. Um Dunsparce when it
Yeah.
from the
But like you could
Sandstorm
just
expansion, this card was like in every single deck as a 4 of because that's what the game was
yeah.
based on. You start your Dunsparce, you use Strike and Run, search your deck for up to 3 basic Pokemon, put them on your bench, and that's how you set your board up. And then when it got reprinted in Celestial Storm, everyone's playing Professor's Research on their first turn to draw 7 cards. Like
Yeah, it's literally the exact same card. They didn't even do anything for it. They could have like made the attack free or given it for your trade cost. I don't know, something different. But yeah, they literally just gave us the exact same card. Yeah. I don't know. I said it's kind of cool to just still have the throwback cards in there. And I mean, there's so much filler in the sets. It's not hard for them to be like, let's go ahead and let's just include a throwback card here. We know it's gonna
this
be
was
bad,
an
but
annoying one though because they've changed how, like, lenient or strict they are on, like, the reprint rules and stuff over the years. Like, right now, you can play the stupid old Super Rod that
yeah,
has
that's
nothing
just
like, totally
yeah.
different text, right, than the current Super
Really.
Rod. This card was, like, meant to be basically exactly the same, but at the time when Celestial Storm came out, they did not let the Sandstorm Dunsparce be legal for play because this one, there's, like it's a search your deck for 3 basic Pokemon, put them on your bench, shuffle your deck afterwards, period. Then you may switch Dunsparce with one of your bench Pokemon. So you could switch Dunsparce if you didn't search your deck for any Pokemon.
Mm.
But this one says if you put any Pokemon on your bench in this way, you may switch this Pokemon with your bench Pokemon. So because it was, like, slightly different, you actually
Why'd they make it
couldn't
different
use the
then?
old Dunsparce, but you could use, like,
So wait, they literally nerfed Dunsparce.
yeah.
The new one is
Insane, right?
nerfed. This is not this is like power creeping or whatever you wanna call it.
Deep
Like
power.
like, this is the opposite of power creep. They literally nerfed the card. The other card came out like 10 years ago or
To be
whatever.
fair, a pretty marginal difference, right? Like
I know, but still, they nerfed it. They didn't even just like keep it the same. They actually nerfed the card, and then didn't let you play the old one, even though they let us use the old Super Rod
well, part of
that
me
literally
does
doesn't do anything
wonder,
like Super Rod.
like, way back whenever Sandstorm came out in 2003, uh
21 years ago. Sheesh.
they were definitely more known for making translation mistakes on cards. So part of me does
Sure.
wonder if it was like meant to be worded like this, but was worded like this, or like
Mm.
rulings were also less consistent back then. The game has come quite a long way in
Well, you
21
say
years.
that. I don't know why I thought about this earlier. You say that, but remember back in Anaheim Worlds 2016, there was that card that was only a promo in Japan
Yeah,
that you're
Tapu Lele.
yeah, and you we weren't able to use it in day 2, but some juniors and seniors in day 1 had it in their deck and were allowed to play it for the whole day because they had never put out an official statement or had, like, an official ruling on this card going into Worlds. So in day 1 of Worlds, some juniors and seniors had this in their deck. Masters could have but didn't, and then they were just like, "Well, we just gotta let them play with the card because we didn't actually, like, say they couldn't play with the card, and it is technically a legal card for them." So,
Yeah.
and
It
then
was a
going into
pretty
day
good
2
card as well.
well, no one played, but it was good, but it wasn't good in anything. No one actually played the card, but I think going into day
A
2,
couple
you weren't
juniors
allowed
and
to use
seniors
it.
did.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So that was like and that's not even that long ago, right? I guess that's, like, still, like, 8 years, 7 years. Sheesh, time is flying.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy,
That is
man.
still a while ago.
2017.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever see any error like there'll be nothing like that ever happen again, obviously. Like, they'll have, like, a statement on because like, even most recently at 2019 Worlds, when
Blaine's
stuff
quiz show.
oh my gosh, and they were like, yeah, let's just not allow this card to
Yeah, for anyone
exist."
who doesn't know, there was a card legal that nobody played, but it was called Blaine's Quiz Show, supporter card. Put a Pokemon from your hand face down in front of you and tell your opponent the name of an attack it has. Your opponent guesses the name of that Pokemon. Then you reveal it. If your opponent guessed right, they draw 4 cards. If they guessed wrong, you draw 4 cards. Return the Pokemon to your hand.
Yeah,
So
and
kind of just
then
like a ridiculous, silly card. But Stefan brought up the discussion on Twitter before the World Championships of like, there's 15 card languages legal at this
yeah.
tournament, or 8. I don't even know exactly how many it is, but a lot of card language is legal. Like, what if someone puts a card face down and says like the Portuguese name? Like, are you supposed to just know the Portuguese names of all the attacks that exist in the format?
Well, I think it would be pretty easy to solve, to be honest. You would just have to bring over a translator. Like, if you when you're
Well,
going
but
to
see,
play
I
the
think part of the
card,
issue is that sometimes attacks are slightly different. Like, the direct translation of one attack
you'd have
might.
to, like you'd have to look up the English card and then read the English name of the attack, not you wouldn't translate it. You'd have to be like
Yeah, but what if it was a Brazilian player and a French player?
you bring up the whoever is supposed to be guessing needs to just know their languages. It would actually be a little bit of a hassle, to be honest, but no one would have played the card, and even if one person played the card, you probably would have been fine. But I guess I understand the reason of like banning at World. I remember I thought it was kind of silly that they actually
Yeah.
banned it at Worlds,
Stefan
but to be
basically
honest,
forced the Pokemon Company
yeah.
to ban this card from
I
the
mean,
World Championships.
there was someone who in day 2 of Worlds was playing a theme deck, so they might have if this wasn't banned, maybe they would have gone out of their way just to play 4 Blaine's Quiz Show or something, so
Is that a thing? They played a theme deck?
yeah, I'm pretty sure they played a theme deck, something like that.
Why?
They just didn't care once they were in day 2, like, "That's it, that's all I want," and roll up with theme. I think they actually had a day 2 invite and then chose to play a theme deck or something like that. I don't remember.
What?
Yeah,
What the heck?
I don't remember exactly. I'm pretty sure this happened.
Yeah, that sounds like something that would have happened
2019.
back at like Worlds in 2007 or something like that. Not.
Scroll down to the bottom, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's not I don't see it. Unless it's one of those decks down there. Would one of those be what were the theme decks back then?
Lightning Magnezone, Jit Min Lim? Probably not.
No, Jit just plays weird decks.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
Jitsu.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
Maybe
think
not, maybe
so.
not.
Unless they started to win some games.
It was a Chandelure deck.
That's a real deck. Oh, real deck.
Well, it is a Jimmy Watts also plays weird
Yes,
decks.
also
So.
plays weird decks, yeah.
Oh, it's this deck. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you remember
Might
this
as well
deck.
be a theme deck,
That was a
right?
content farm deck right here.
Yeah, that deck was hilarious. All right, we're going up a little bit too high. Then maybe there
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah.
I
Maybe it was a
swear they
different
were.
year.
Yeah, no, but it was. I'm pretty sure it was this year. But maybe they played it in day one. Maybe they didn't make it to day two. That might have been it, to be honest.
That would
'Cause-
make maybe a little more sense.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it was.
I think we've spent enough time on, I guess, the flavored text this week with a fun little history lesson of Blaine's quiz show. Um, yeah, let's go ahead and get into Twilight Masquerade. So the new set coming out very soon. Um, yeah, pre-releases were this past weekend. I saw people posting pictures of their polls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Lots of great cards in this set. We have talked about a lot of these cards like as they were getting revealed in Japan, right? But we do generally with the new sets coming out like to do like little set reviews when we can. We might not hit every single card here, but we'll kind of talk about kind of the big ones as we scroll through. Sound good, Azul?
Yep, sounds like a plan. I actually might go to a pre-release this weekend myself because
Yeah,
I'm gonna be doing the was it Santiago restream, but that's gonna start up at like 4 a.m. my time, and then I'm usually done around 12, and there's like a pre-release at 2 p.m. or something nearby me, so I might go
let's
to
go, dude.
pre-release. We'll see.
That would
I
be
might
hype.
also be too tired to do that, so because I'm waking up at like 4 a.m. So we'll
Azul,
see how it goes.
big napping, big
But yeah,
napping.
let's take a look at some of the heavy hitters. There's a Thwacky. Let's start with that, I guess.
Yeah, so Thwacky here, 100 HP, stage 1 grass type Pokemon, has the Big Bang Drum ability. If your active Pokemon has the ability Festival Lead, you may use this ability, search your deck for a card, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck.
Yeah.
I actually
So
saw some people talking about this deck on the course of the weekend in the pre-release format because it seems like there's like a Thwacky pre-release kit that has a 1/1 Diplin in it, and that kit is just like broken. Someone said made the comparison that it's like playing Charizard Pidgeot in pre-release form.
I mean that makes sense. It sounds like that's what it would be. Definitely seems pretty broken. And this card is like really good to be honest. And there's a couple of you can play it with the Diplin, which is its own deck, or you can play it with the what is it? Uh Goldeen. There's a
Yeah, bro.
Goldeen that has
I
the
just want everyone to
ability.
remember that you were trashing Goldeen whenever I, was talking about how I thought it could be good, but that's okay.
There's the Goldeen that has the ability. So you can put Goldeen in the active with an escape board or a rescue board, excuse me. And then use a couple Thwackies, get anything you need for your turn. The question is just like, what are you playing with that combo? Which I don't know. I actually don't know what you're playing with that combo, but it is a combo. I think the one thing the big thing that seems to be holding Thwacky back is it's a lot of low HP Pokemon, and
Yep.
Dragapult seems to be the BDIF. So, or at least like a tier one deck, at the very least a tier one deck. It seems like Dragapult is, if not the
Yeah.
big IF. So, Thwacky might not have its moment immediately on release, but I think it's very strong, and we'll definitely see it pop up at some point, as long as like spread/snipe decks are kind of kept in check eventually.
And here is the Diplin that you were mentioning, stage 1 grass type Pokemon with that ability, Festival Lead. If Festival Grounds is in play, this Pokemon may use an attack it has twice. And then its attack for just 1 grass energy, do the wave 20 times. This attack does 20 damage for each of your benched Pokemon. So, yeah, you can just smack stuff for 100, and then they send up something else, and you smack them for 100 again.
Yep.
The main reason that this deck could have been good uh, in the current format would have been because of Charizard, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
grass type, you can one hit KO Charizard, right? But Charizard seems to have kind of fallen out in favor of Dragapult as far as like the best stage 2 Pokemon at the moment. So I don't know. It feels hard for Diplin to succeed immediately in this format, but there could be a world where it pops up, right?
Yeah, it could definitely have its moment eventually, but yeah, right now it does not seem like it's going to be very strong early on.
A
But we'll
board
see how
of
things develop.
Thwackies definitely can just like let you do a lot of things though.
Yeah, maybe some kind of control deck. Maybe let's say you play control moving forward is just like,
Dude,
once again they're like low HP, so Dragapult will pick you apart.
what is going on with Thwacky's feet here, man?
What do you mean?
I don't know. It's just like very pronounced. Feet. Like they he's
Why is there
got
so much
toes.
detail? Why is there so much detail on
That's what I'm
Thwacky's feet?
saying, dude.
Good question. It's a good question, Chip. We'll have to investigate.
Well, I'll
Art
leave
artist.
that to you, digging into the foot lore of Thwacky. Let's move on.
Yeah, keep
We've
scrolling. Skip the
we can
T.
skip the T. You wanna go with the T?
No, we can skip T. We can skip the T. We can
Skip the T.
talk about the Ogre Pawn, and maybe we only need to really talk about the grass one, to be honest, because Ogre Pawn in general as a deck, not popped up at all. But the
Yeah.
grass one is something we've seen be kind of a support Pokemon in a couple different decks. Raging Bolt is one of them that I've seen. But there was another one too, but I can't remember what the other one was. But yeah, the ability on the Ogre Pawn. Once on your turn, you may attach a basic grass energy from your hand to this Pokemon. If you attach energy to this Pokemon this way, draw a card. So not bad. Energy acceleration to itself plus draw a card. And then the attack for 3 grass energy, 30 plus 30 more damage for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. So the attack not going to be hitting that hard, but the self acceleration is nice for something like the Raging Bolt, like I mentioned. So I don't know, maybe that's where it'll find its home. Does that make Raging Bolt good enough?
I did see this
Not
picture
sure.
from, Julius Brunfelt on Twitter today. Said, "Turn 1, this deck is so stupid." And look at, like, all these energy cards in play, the double Raging Bolt, the double Ogre Pawn. Maybe this is what Raging Bolt needs to unlock its potential, you know?
There's a little bit more aggressive energy acceleration because you do have the
Look how
what
many
is it?
cards are in the
Sandy
discard
Shocks,
pile on turn 1.
research plus ability, plus
Billy,
Greninja,
Radiant Greninja plus Pokestop, like
plus drawing some cards with the Ogre Pawns.
yep.
And it also gives you that the draw power as well, right? It's not just energy acceleration like the Sandy Shocks. There's also some draw power, and you can use it before or during the early game as well. So yeah, I don't know. This could be the difference maker for Raging Ball for sure. Maybe this is it.
Definitely feels like that's the place that this card fits the best right now.
Yeah.
Um But yeah, I mean, pretty strong ability like energy excel plus draw power, usually a combination for success.
hmm Usually, yeah. Usually, you need like you're setting up a Pokemon for each of those sometimes, but it
Yeah.
has it both in one, which is nice. Even though it's not that much draw power, it's a little bit.
Yeah, we can skip the Hearthflame Ogre Pond. It doesn't yeah, I
Yeah.
think that a
Skip the other
dedicated
one.
Ogre Pond deck doesn't feel super good right now. There's the Goldeen. We did already kind of mention it. It's got that Festival Leads ability, and its attack for 2 colorless Whirlpool, 10 damage. Flip a coin if heads, discard an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So, with the Festival Grounds Stadium in play, you get 2 chances to discard some energy cards. I think I mean, if there's decks in the
Suggestion
format
would
like
be
Charizard that are playing 6 basic energy, 2 super odd, there's a world where you're just like spamming Erie, spamming his Fortune Sisters, and trying to get rid of those energies.
the thing that's interesting about the thing with Thwacky though is like Thwacky doesn't need the stadium in play. It just needs something with the ability and the active. So
Yes. Yeah.
if you're using it with the Goldeen, maybe you play like a full control deck where Goldeen is actually like your main attacker. But if not, then you're probably just like putting a Goldeen in your active, finding your cards, and then doing something with whatever your deck is with those
Well, there's
cards.
also, other Pokemon that are basics that have that ability. There's like a
Yeah.
Swirlix, I think. We'll talk about it when we see it.
Yeah. So they can all be like useful. I guess like Goldeen has the best attack, I think, out of all of them. But
There's a Melodic here I do want to mention at stage 1. It does have this ability Tranquil. Your opponent's Pokemon in play and the cards attached to those Pokemon can't be returned to their hand. So that's pretty interesting. It shuts down any sort of penny plays.
Hero.
With this set coming out, there is the Scoop Up Cyclone A spec being reprinted. So maybe like a direct answer to that. There's Sharon's Care. If there was like a meta where that was really popular and there was one specific deck that like I could see this popping up at some point.
Yeah, definitely. As like a tech for a certain matchup. We mentioned those sometimes where it's like it just needs the correct decks
It's like a
to be
type of
good.
card to remember that it exists.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or even just for like one matchup. If you got a deck that like answers everything except one matchup, then Melodic could be the missing piece for that matchup.
Yeah. And then we've got the Snowrunt, Glalie, Frostlass line. So Frostlass has the ability Freezing Curtain. During Pokemon Checkup, you put 1 damage counter on each Pokemon in play with an ability, except for any Frostlass. Both yours and your opponent's, though. And then Glalie here has the Damage Beat attack for 1 water. This attack does 20 damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon.
Yeah, so I'm not sure the best way to actually play this overall. I mean, it could be with the Glalie, but you only have so many Snow Run to work with, and you want to set up ideally at least 2 Frostlass, I would assume, so probably have to
Yeah, I
find some
think
other partners.
the lists in Japan so far that I've seen playing this have been Blissey decks,
Mhm.
where you're playing Monkey Dory as well, so you stack some damage on your side of the field, and then use Monkey Dory to move those damage counters, and then also Frostlass just builds up damage on your opponent's side throughout the course of the game.
Yeah, that makes sense, I could see it. Yeah, definitely some potential for the Frostlass. Definitely, like, a good card, but, like, it needs the right partner for sure.
Yeah. We will talk about Greninja when we get to it, but I do just quickly want to mention Froakie and Frogadier. I guess really just Froakie here
Yeah,
because
just
it's
for
got the it's the basic for Greninja EX, which is a Terra fighting type Pokemon EX. But this attack, Flock for a water energy, search your deck for up to 2 Froakie, put them on your bench, then shuffle your deck. These call for family attacks are always pretty good on basic Pokemon that evolve into your main attacker, right?
yeah, yeah, having those useful attacks on your basics or draw power on your stage 1, whatever it might be, always gonna be a big difference maker.
Next up, we've got Palafin, a couple Palafin, the Palafin and the Palafin EX. So, both of these are stage 1 Pokemon, and they are the same Pokemon, technically. And Palafin, the non EX, has the ability 0 to Hero. Once during your turn, when this Pokemon moves from the active spot to the bench, you may search your deck for a Palafin EX and switch it with this Pokemon. Any attached cards, damage counter, special conditions, turns in play, yada yada, any other effects remain on the new Pokemon. And if you switch to Pokemon in this way, put this card into your deck. And then Palafin EX really just has some of the best stats in the game for a stage 1.
Yeah,
It does have that ability, Hero's Spirit. You can only put this Pokemon in play with the effect of Palafin's 0 to Hero ability, but it's a stage 1 with 340 HP, and then its attack, Giga Impact, 250 damage for 1 water energy.
yeah, so the stats are high, and when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, that seems pretty good," but it's done nothing from what I've seen in Japan at all. At city
Still kind of
leagues,
surprising to me.
yeah, I don't know, it just literally had no results at
It
all from what I've
it
seen.
doesn't seem that hard to get this thing in play. Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely more annoying than normal, but it doesn't seem that hard. There's
Maybe
jet
it just has,
energy,
like,
there's
a
switch, there's the skateboards. There's lots of ways to move your Pokemon around in the format.
yeah, I mean, Dragapult is definitely the best deck overall in the format, so if it just has a bad Dragapult matchup, maybe that's just enough. Like, maybe it just has a really bad Dragapult matchup. Although I don't know, you got a lot of HP, I feel like it would maybe be fine, but I guess maybe not. Like 340 is a lot of HP. Being weak to lightning doesn't seem that bad. I mean, Miraidon did just win the most recent Champions League, so Miraidon seems pretty decent overall in the format. But yeah, I mean, 340 on a stage 1 for every other matchup. Like it's not Miraidon doesn't seem like overly popular. Um, so yeah, I don't know. This one is a little bit of a mystery to me, but maybe just the deck isn't as consistent as we think it is, having not played it yet. Maybe that's just the missing piece. Is it's just not that good.
Yeah, definitely could see it.
Maybe it's too straightforward too. Like you are hitting for 250 every turn, but that's it. That's all you're doing.
That is true, yeah, and you're not like it's not like it's gonna one hit KO any stage 2 Pokemon in the format
Yep.
ever, right? You're never gonna one hit KO Dragapults, Charizard, any of that stuff. You do one hit KO
Definitely
all the
not.
2 prize guys though, pretty much, the basic, like, EXs or the Vs. You can play Choice Belts, to KO, like, V-Stars, right?
Yeah, I guess like just I mean also like one hit KOing one hit KOing a Dreepy is like kind of overkill with 250 damage, right? So
Yeah. True, and
those
it's
ones.
not like the other Palafin has, like I mean, its attack does 30 damage, right? Like
Yeah.
alright, I do wanna mention the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, because this one did get a decent placement in one of the Lugia lists at the Champions League. So it's 210 HP, water type basic Pokemon EX with that Terra attribute. And then it has the Torrential Pump attack for a water and 2 colorless energy, 100 damage. And then you may shuffle 3 energy attached to this Pokemon into your deck. If you do, this attack does 120 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon.
Yeah. It seems okay. I mean like you'd have to play it in something like um what is it called? Chin Pao, Baxcalibur?
Lugia.
Really teach you energy. Oh, I guess you played in Lugia too, right? Do
Did
a
you not
slight
hear me
play.
literally just say that this got top 16 at the Champions League in Lugia?
I heard that. I didn't hear you say Lugia though.
Yes, in Lugia.
Oh, dude. I am just like I am getting really, really tired. I think this is
The
where
jet lag is catching
the
you
jet lag
now.
is hitting me right now. Like, I'm, like, literally just,
Perfect
like
timing.
I just keep yawning. I don't know if you've noticed that I keep yawning,
I
but
have not.
I've I just keep yawning. Yeah, I mean, having the snipe attack in Lugia, that's pretty good. I mean, Lugia's gonna gain that, Neo Upper Energy, which gives it a lot of new tools to potentially work with. That actually is pretty interesting then. I could definitely like that. Give you a snipe attack in the Lugia deck as well as, like, having, like, Iron Hands access and all that. It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. And it's like it saves your legacy energy as well in Lugia, right? Because you shuffle it back
Yeah,
into the deck.
shuffle it back into the deck, yeah. I mean, you are putting, like, a pretty big 2 prize on the active, so you're giving up some prize cards, but depending on what you're knocking out, though,
Yeah.
that's, like,
It's
another
definitely like a
piece.
tech for certain matchups. I guess the
Yeah.
question has to be, in the instance where Torrential Pump is taking 2 prizes for you, what decks are not playing Manaphy that you're taking 2 prizes with,
The biggest thing would
and
just be,
then that
like
you wouldn't want to use Iron Hands?
true, but the biggest thing I think well, you'd be, like, being able to, like, remove both their Dreepies from play or both their Charmanders from play, right? They don't even get to play the game anymore.
Sure.
And then on top of that, imagine going up against a Lugia and then having to bench Manaphy. That sucks. Like, you're like, "Well, I guess I gotta bench the Manaphy now," like, that's, like, another part of it for sure as well, I think.
We've got the Luxray EX, Stage 2 Lightning type Pokemon, 310 HP with the Piercing Glint attack for 2 colorless energy, 120 damage. Look at your opponent's hand and discard 1 card you find there. Any card.
Any card. This is a card that I was pretty hype about. Once again, very few results overall in the city leagues as well, and I don't think anything in the Champions League that happened. But I will say, control decks generally just not that very heavily played. Also, probably control decks probably are not great in best of one city leagues as well. I
I
would
don't know,
assume
Snorlax still pops up.
just pop up a little bit. It pops up a little bit. So, but like, even then though, like sometimes the results from control just it takes a while for them to develop in a format, right? So I think there's
Mhm.
still probably Luxray probably still seems like it's going to be pretty decent, but only time will tell. I guess if like heavy hitting decks exist like Lugia, maybe that's too much to handle, to be honest. Shinchino's just one hit KOing you, and you're doing not enough damage.
You got little Emolga here. Basic 60 HP Pokemon, a colorless attack, Skywave, 10 damage. Also 10 damage to each benched Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. Little
All right,
spread
ship,
action.
reel it in, ship. I thought you said we're just gonna only look at the good cards here. What
Hey,
is
listen,
happening?
Emolga, Frostlass, okay, with the
Okay,
Glalie. We're building
all
up
right,
damage.
something's happening here. All right, next card. We
I don't know
got.
what's next. We got more Peko. Snack Search. Once during your turn, you may look at the top card of your deck, then you may discard it.
I guess like an interesting ability. It's just like one of those abilities that's always good to remember that exists. It'll probably combo with like maybe one deck eventually, or just like a deck that really wants to aggressively draw through it. The deck, like you just use it like 2 or 3 turns in a row. Just discard your top deck as long as it's not like a really good card. It'll help you get to 0 potentially. See it?
Hey, if it's a lightning Pokemon, you use it. If it's a lightning energy, oh, I know that I have to use generator before I fleet footed now.
I guess it could increase your generator odds, right? Just because you just like sit it on your bench, get it
You
with your
just
Miraidon,
know.
you just peek. If it's not an energy, you discard it, then you generator.
Yeah.
Unless the card's really good. I don't know, maybe. I don't know if that's worth it, but can you like have multiple of these on your bench?
Yeah.
I guess you could have like 2 down and then like to try and help your generator odds. That doesn't seem terrible. It's probably not worth it though.
I could see one,
See 2,
three.
3.
Next up here, we've got Iron Thorns EX. I think a card that both Azul and I are hoping, crossing our fingers, that it's not going to be that good.
Well, I just don't want there to be a quad. I don't want
Yeah,
quad
the
Iron Thorns
quad
to be good.
Iron or Iron Thorns deck.
That's cringe. But it seems like Dragapult. It doesn't seem like it can handle Dragapult. It did exist for a little while pre Dragapult.
So it's got the
When Japan
ability
had it.
initialize here while this Pokemon is in the active spot. Pokemon with a rule box in play, except future Pokemon, don't have any abilities. And then Bolt Cyclone is the attack. Lightning, colorless, colorless, 140 damage. Move 1 energy from this Pokemon to one of your benched Pokemon. So yeah, in Japan, this did exist for a little while before Dragapult came out. It did see a little bit of success at one of the Champions Leagues.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me back in, do you remember in like 2019, there was a tournament in Japan that Buzzwole Pheromosa GX won the
Yeah.
event.
Hmm.
But that card didn't really get a good chance to shine in America because it came out in the same set as Reshiram and Charizard GX, which was a fire type that just destroyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the bigger thing was it came out in the same set as Welder, so there's a ton of
Sure.
fire decks out of nowhere, and I was like, yeah, I can't handle any of them. So that's like one of the things that is kind of unfortunate. 'Cause, like, the intention is that the game is supposed to develop at the rate that Japan currently gets their cards, but we get so many of the cards more of the cards at the same time, so we don't get to experience, like, some of the formats and metas that Japan does, which is how the game is intended to be played and intended to develop, so,
Yeah.
we are basically in the same formats most of the time, but and for the more important, the bigger formats, I feel like we're generally on the same page, but we do miss out on some stuff now and then.
I do think Iron Thorns could pop up as like a one of in a Miraidon deck potentially if there was a specific meta where you wanted something like this, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Starting it and shutting down your own tandem unit feels pretty bad though.
Even, like, future decks. I'm sure future decks could take advantage of this at some point if they, continue to develop and be decent.
Next up, we've got Clefable here. Metronome. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. Two colorless energy. One prize Pokemon
Server.
being able to copy two prize Pokemon's attacks.
Yeah. I mean, it could be cool. I think I mentioned this when we saw this, for the first time, is that Zoroark is feeling pretty sad about not having
Yeah,
access to this.
Zorobox.
Yeah, before it rotated. But, yeah, I mean, the thing is it's just like a stage 1 that doesn't guarantee anything. So it'd be kinda like the Melodic where it's, like, matchup specific, like, very, very, very matchup specific.
Yeah. I just want to mention this Abra real quick. It's got the ability Teleporter. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may shuffle it and all cards attached to it into your deck. So I think this is like, think back to those fossil Pokemon that existed. It was like anti deck out technology. Right now we have
Yeah.
Pidgeot V, obviously, but I think this could exist in some deck as an anti deck out thing.
It's almost like more balance as well because it has to be in the active
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to get it there. Whereas Pidgeot is balanced in the sense that it can't, um,
Can't be used from the active.
so it can't be used from the active, so, like, it can't be hit, and then you immediately shuffle it in back at from the active. Like, imagine a Pidgeot V in the active with a Hero Escape, and you don't have a way to wanna KO it. You punch it, they shuffle it back, send up another one, repeat.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like, I feel like Pidgeot is balanced correctly, but that's based on it having so much HP. Like, if the overall having one of those effects exist in the game, I feel like the Abra is the correct way to go on average.
We've got a Florges here. Once during your turn, you may flip a coin. If heads, switch in one of your opponent's benched Pokemon to the active spot. So a continual
Dude, what
shot at a
Chip,
gust.
what cards why are you reading these cards? You at the
Dude,
beginning, you were like, "We're gonna read the good cards." This card is terrible. We've seen this before, never been
not to
good.
bring up any Pokemon. There was like the
Yes, we
Appleton that
have.
only brought up basic
I'm pretty
Pokemon,
sure
I
we have
think.
seen this exact same thing on a stage 2 before.
Well, it was probably broken. Nobody realized it. Next up, we've got Swirlix with that festival lead ability, just fodder for Azul's little thwacky deck.
Yeah. Just I guess a different op but yeah, it doesn't make any sense to play that over the other one, I don't think ever.
We've got, you want to read Screamtail?
No, we can skip the Screamtail.
We've
Go
got
to the
Monkey. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go to the Monkey Door. It's been seen a decent amount of play in a couple decks,
Yeah, I
right?
think this is one of my favorite cards from the set for sure. Adrenaline Brain is the ability here. One string your turn, if this Pokemon has any darkness energy attached to it, you may move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So it does a few things. It heals your Pokemon and it increases the damage that's put in play on your opponent's side. Like, it's a pretty cool card.
Yeah. Pretty high cost in the it needs to be in play on the bench and then also needs an energy on it. And we've been seeing it be played in a couple different ways. We've seen it in the Blissey decks and then also in Gardevoir as well as a way to like, you know, build up. You can like build up damage through retreating. Like they take a knockout, you push up your Gardevoir EX, accelerate to energy to it, retreat to your Drifloon, build up energy on your Drifloon, Monkey Dory energy off your Drifloon or damage off your Guardy to the active, to their active, knock them out. Um, Definitely interesting for sure. Um, and it's yeah, it's found its way into a couple decks so far. Seems like a deck card that'll probably be around for a little while. Trying to do
Also, really
stuff.
good against Dragapult, right?
Yeah, yeah, for to remove that spread damage, definitely can make a big difference there. Yeah.
We've got Pheasantipity with the ability Adrenaline Pheromones. If this Pokemon has any darkness energy attached to it, and if any damage is done to it, flip a coin. If heads, prevent that damage. And then
Super.
energy feathers 30x. This attack does 30 damage for each energy attached to this Pokemon.
So this one hasn't made its way into Guard X from what I've seen. Although that's like kind of the obvious inclusion, obviously where you want to include it, which is interesting because yeah, a lot of lists, every Guard list has Monkey Dory in there already. You could just play one Pheasantipede. You could include in there, but no one's doing it from what I've seen from Japan. I'm sure there's some matches where it'd be pretty useful to have like the potential of that flip, right? Just trying to survive for an extra turn. So the ability is really, really good. The cost of
Is
it
it
is
worth
that dark
giving up
energy,
like the
though.
second Drifloon though? Is the question.
I don't know. I mean, if you're still taking your knockout for the turn, then you have the potential to survive for a turn. I would say yeah, but I don't know. Maybe the no matchups really line up that well to ever consider including it. I guess would be that's the question. Yeah, everyone. I'm looking like through a list right now. Everyone has Monkey Dory in the guard for, but nobody has the Pheasantipede.
Pheasantipede ain't it? I did see kind of a funny thing from the pre-release kits. It seemed like a pretty common question that came up was like luminous, because luminous energy is in the pre-constructed decks or whatever that you get, because you can use them with the Monkey Dory, Pheasantipede, and the
Yep.
Okidogi that we'll see in a moment. Um, People were like confused, like, oh, if I have just a luminous energy attached to this Pheasantipede, do I get the ability and also get the energy feathers? Because like luminous energy says it only provides one energy at a time, but it only but it's just like a confusing thing because of how it's worded, but it makes sense because luminous energy provides every type of energy, but just like only satisfies one cost at a time is the way to think about it.
Yeah. So it just depends on when you're trying to satisfy a cost. Like when your opponent is when you're checking for the ability, it's a dark energy. When you're checking to go
No,
to
no.
attack with it,
It's
what?
always a dark energy and also always a psychic energy.
Yeah, it was always everything at the same time.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, when you need well, yeah, when you need it to be a dark energy, it's dark energy. When you need it to be a psychic energy, it's psychic energy, and so on and so forth. You don't have to like lock in one, and it's like that
The
that moment.
bigger question, I think, where it came up was with Okidogi here, which I'll just go ahead and scroll down to. We'll come back up to the other stuff, but we'll just go to this since we're talking about it because it's got that same ability. If a darkness energy is attached to it, it gets this extra effect, and the extra effect in this instance is it gets plus 100 HP and its attacks do 100 more damage, but its attacks cost 2 fighting energy. So if you had 1 fighting energy and 1 luminous energy attached, you would deal 170 damage and have more HP. You could still
Yeah,
use its attack. It's not like you need to have the luminous energy plus another fighting energy because the luminous energy is only providing the darkness energy. At the
this one's
same
already
time, it's
the
providing a dark and a fighting energy.
this one's already the worst of the three, so it'd be even that much worse if it had that as well included in it, trying to be able to pull off the attack plus the ability.
Hey
Um,
man, listen, you're going to a pre-release this weekend, you said potentially.
maybe
This guy's this is the big guy for your
that's
pre-release
him.
for sure. This guy seems like pretty strong.
230 HP is a lot on a one prize Pokemon.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And yeah, let's go back up here. Scroll on down to the Greninja EX. Now, this is one that hadn't been seeing a lot of play in Japan, but if you look at the last couple of days of City Leagues, there was a couple of them popping up, getting second place, a couple that won City Leagues as well. But it's stage 2 fighting type Pokemon, 310 HP, a Terra Pokemon as well. And it's got the attack Ninja Blade, 170 damage. You may search your deck for any one card, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your deck.
Yeah. So definitely a card that got a lot of hype on first reveal, and I was pretty excited for it. That's one of the things that I kind of why I just like I just dislike. I dislike how we're DCing from Japan in that sense because like we already see that they're just not using the card at all, and we don't even get to go through the process of being like, "Ooh, is this good? Is this bad? Let's test it. Let's try it." We just see all the lists and stuff from Japan already, the results from Japan already, and it's like we never get to experience that initial kind of testing
Exploration.
phase. Yeah, exploration at all. We just like it's like if there was a timeline for a format, we're jumping in like 20%. We like preload 20% into the format, right? Like or even more than that. Sometimes it feels like maybe like 50%. Which kind of sucks and does take away from the overall enjoyment, I would say, of the game as through like format to format. So this should once again like a reason to sync us up with Japan on set releases would be the overall increased enjoyment of the game, to be honest.
Do you want me to read Ting Lu or should I skip
No,
it?
please skip Tinglu.
We'll skip the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon EX as well. Skip all the dark type Pokemon.
All of them.
Skip all the metal type Pokemon. And here we go. We've got some dragons that are pretty strong. So we've got the Dragapult EX here, 320 HP, stage 2 dragon type Pokemon. Does have that Terra attribute. And it's got two attacks. The first one for a colorless Jet Headbutt for 70. Not too bad for just a little, if you only got one energy on the guy. But it's really all about the Phantom Dive for a fire and a psychic energy, 200 damage. And then you put 6 damage counters on your opponent's benched Pokemon in any way that you like. And one of the things that makes this card so good is the stage 1, the Dracloak. It's got the ability Telling Spirit. I actually think it's called something else. It is called, got one right in here somewhere. I will say I got a box and a ETB from Pokemon that I opened up. So that's what, 36, 45 packs. Drekloak is a common card, and I got
Called one.
one. I got one. Its ability is called Recon Directive. And then once during your turn, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand, and put the other one on the bottom of your deck.
When was the last time we saw this ability?
Airmail Pidgey.
Was that it? That's the last time? Airmail Pidgey?
I think so.
Yeah, I think you might be right. That was it. And then before that was what? Oxy Level X?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Uxie.
Yeah, so we've seen this ability a couple times throughout the years on the consistency cards. And that's like a big deal for this deck, probably for sure. I mean, I haven't played with it yet. Dragon Ball itself is a very powerful attacker, but the stage 1 being a big part of your or being a consistent factor always means that the deck's probably pretty good, right? We saw that with Gardevoir. I guess Charizard less so, but because everything was built into the Charizard, right? Um, got the attack, the energy acceleration, and then you're relying on the Pidgeot for the engine or B-Barrel, like we've seen B-Barrel Charizard before. But yeah, Dragapult all in one with the line, the Dracloak, Dragapult's the Dragapult's the attacker, the Dracloak's the consistency, which makes it even that much more potentially efficient. Which is why it definitely seems like it is the best deck in format, right? Especially like from Japan's results, it definitely seems like that is true.
Yeah, and people
But
have been playing it a few different ways. There's the Charizard EX build, there's Pidgeot builds, there's Lost Zone builds, but the build
Zatu,
that has prevailed is the most popular and seeming to be the best overall is the Zatu build.
the Charizard builds have to be terrible. There's just no way that's good. That's just so much going on.
Yeah.
But maybe it's better. Maybe I need to try it out. Maybe it's better than I'm giving it credit for. It's like that Urshifu Dragapult deck that people were playing that people thought was good back in the VMAX days. I don't even know if you ever saw that deck, Chip, but
Nope, not really.
yeah, that deck was bad. It's just like trying to do too much. Um, yeah,
If I
but
saw it, I don't remember it.
meta definitely seems like it's developing past just Dragapult BDIF 30% of the meta. Like at the Champions League, we saw Miraidon win, Gardevoir get second, and then even at the City Leagues as well, I feel like we've been seeing more variety in what's been winning and doing well. So it seems like there's like some development to the meta for sure that'll be happening.
We do have the Tatsugiri here, another pretty hyped up card from the set. It's got the ability Attract Customers once during your turn. If this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may look at the top 6 cards of your deck, reveal a supporter card you find there, and put it into your hand, and then shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Basic Pokemon with 70 HP, so you can Buddy Poffin for it. It's got 1 retreat, so you can slap the rescue board on it. Seems like a pretty good card.
Yeah, Tatsugiri is definitely gonna be pretty good, not just with this set, but like in the future as well. And a lot of decks have been playing it. It's not in like everything, but actually one thing that I did notice is it seems like none of the Lost Zone decks are playing the Tatsugiri, which is a surprise to me. I thought it would be in like all the Lost Zone decks. It
Turns
sounds
out you
kind
don't
of
want to use a switch to not put a card in the Lost Zone.
I don't know. I feel like it's definitely worth the trade off. Like you could just play more switches, like build the deck more heavily
I
around
think
the
you would rather play
Tatsugiri. But
Pokegear, man.
I don't know about that. It's also searchable. You can like go search for the Tatsugiri. You can't search for you can't Poffin for
But you can
Pokegear.
Poffin for Comfy, and Comfy can get you Colress, Pokegear, it can get you anything.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and I guess I'll just have to make the good Lost on decks. Everyone's Lost on decks are just bad, but once I show them how to put Tatsugiri in it, things will change.
There's a card here I actually think is pretty interesting. It's the Far-Fetched. It's got this ability Sonic Duty. When you play this Pokemon Duty, when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you during your turn, you may search your deck for a Pokemon tool card and attach it to this Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. And then it's attack 30 damage. Mock Cut for a colorless, discard a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Not the worst attack in the world, but it's really about the Sonic duty. And I think that the best this is a pretty cool card, I think, especially with all the technical machines we have in the formats.
Yeah, and it would the question is, like, how do you make this work with them consistently? And the only way I can, like, really come up with is jet energy, besides playing a deck that has, like, where all the basics have free retreat, right?
Yeah.
Like, theoretically,
Yeah,
if your
that's true.
basics had free retreat, you could go like, "Okay, I opened that basic," and then you go search out Farfetch, bench Farfetch. Also, the Farfetch's ability is not able to combo with Poffin or Nest Ball. You have to Ultra Ball for it. That's, like, another drawback of the card, so it seems like there might be a little bit too much to make it work, but some decks in the future to combo with TM Evo definitely seem reasonable with this card. Whether you get Jet Energy involved, or a lot of switch cards, or they have free retreat. Like a lot of your Pokemon in the deck have free retreat. Definitely some potential for the card to combo with the TMs. And I guess maybe it could combo with like even the TM Devo. Cause you how could
Yeah.
you get this thing to work with 'cause just having a way to search your deck for the card is kind of nice. How could you ever make this thing work with Crisis Punch? How would you get 3 energy on it? I guess is the question.
No.
I got it. Far-fetched for the, Crisis Punch into Thornton into Cram. 280.
Oh, buddy.
I
Man,
win.
that's a lot to unpack there. Let's move on to the Blissey EX, stage 1 EX Pokemon, 300 HP, colorless type, has the ability Happy Switch. Once during your turn, you may move a basic energy card from one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon, and then its attack is returned for 3 colorless energy, 180 damage. I think this card seems really good. Uh, the problem is just gonna be if there's stuff in the meta that can one-hit KO Blissey, then it becomes
Yeah.
not very good.
That's what I was scared of, right? Being able to get 1 KO'd. Because yeah, if you do just like, or if you're able to punch for 180, then you draw up as well. The attack has built-in draw. It doesn't get around Roxanne or Iono. You still could be Roxanne or Iono'd. But maybe you play some other cards in the deck to move, or to draw into cards. People have been playing this with Monkey Dory, like you mentioned, right? So you can heal damage off it.
Yep, you can also
Um,
use Sharon's Care as well to pick
yeah,
this thing up,
Shares cares involved. It's definitely interesting. The card seems good. I mean, it's just really big and has the possibility of being full healed like every single turn.
but if
From Sharon's
that
care.
Raging Bolt deck is a real thing, this definitely doesn't wanna
Yeah.
play versus that. Lugia seems like
Chien
it's a pretty good
Pao.
deck in this format. You don't really wanna play versus that. Chien-Pao has fallen off pretty dang hard. It's
Yeah,
basically nowhere to be seen.
the Dragon Ball matchup is probably just terrible. It's gotta be tough. I assume that's the reason that we don't see it much anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not that bad though. Actually, I'm like going through the City League results and the Charizard is still there.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But I feel like you just lose to Dragapult in TM Evo. Devo, excuse me.
And
I don't know.
next up, I think the only card that could give Dragapult a run for its money as far as, like, what the best card from the set is, the best Pokemon at least, you can make an
And
argument for
honestly,
some of the trainers.
I would still say like Dragapult's good,
Yeah,
but I would say Tatsugiri is probably the best card in the set. And then second would probably be the Blood Moon Ursaluna.
and honestly might just be Blood Moon Ursaluna first, to be
I could see
honest.
that. Yeah, I'm not it's one or the other for sure.
This card is nuts. Colorless, 260 HP basic Pokemon has the ability Elder's Technique. This Pokemon's Blood Moon attack costs 1 colorless less for each prize card your opponent has already taken. And then Blood Moon, its one attack does 240 damage. You can't attack during your next turn, and it does cost 5 colorless energy. So they were like, that Radiant Charizard card we made, how it's like super good. What if we made a colorless one that any deck could use? That's what Blood Moon Ursaluna is.
Yeah, someone was really mad at like losing to Radzar and I was like, I want to use that in my deck, but I don't want to play a fire deck.
Yeah.
Let's make one for that. Yeah, it's an interesting card. It almost seems too good. I don't know. Because it is just so easy to be able to be slotted into literally any deck, right?
It's got
It's
a
just like
lot of HP too. Like this thing is not going to get KO'd super easily
yeah, so
once it comes into play.
the thing that I'm thinking is like, do we really want something that's basically Juniper but as a Pokemon in every deck that isn't a consistency card? I guess Juniper is kind of a bad example for the current meta. Maybe like Nest Ball. Do we want a Nest Ball Pokemon? that you just like play in every deck because it's so good. It's like I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. It is in a lot of decks, but it's like not in stuff like Dragapult, like the bigger, more heavy setup decks. It's not really in those. Um, but people are like running it in Lost Tina
Of the top
and
16, oh, the Thailand Championships had the new set legal.
oh,
We didn't even really look at this.
no, I guess we didn't.
Oh, snap.
Lost Tina did with the Blood Moon Ursaluna.
Yeah, I was gonna look
First
at
and
how
second.
many looking at Champions League Sapporo, there's 1, 2,
5
3, 4, 5 out of the top 16, but if you look at the Champions the Thailand Championships, of the top 32, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 out of the top 32, including
more than a third.
1st, 2nd, and 3rd place, all
Yeah,
had
see, I
Blood
don't
Moon
know.
Ursaluna in their deck.
That's why I don't know if I like this card too much because it feels like a nest ball in Pokemon form. But it not being a support Pokemon means that like every deck's winning strategy. It's not like, oh, like Luminion can win you a game by going to find boss, but like if every deck played Luminion, it wouldn't feel like everyone's like strategy to win the game is the same. But if every deck has Blood Moon Ursaluna, it's like every deck is like has the same not like win condition, but like I guess way to win the game by utilizing this in the late game. I don't know. It kind of this card feels like it might be too good to be honest. The more I'm thinking about it, so I guess this makes it better than Tatsugiri. This just is the best card in the set because like Dragon Ball might be the BDIF in this format, but Blood Moon Ursaluna is not format relevant, right? This card is just
Yeah.
broken. It's just a good card. It doesn't matter what the format is. Like as if a new deck comes out next set after this one that just has a really good Dragon Ball matchup and is the new BDIF, then you can't play Dragon Ball anymore. But it probably plays Blood Moon Ursaluna in it, so yeah, I don't know how I feel about this card actually, to be honest. The more I've thought about it, just like in this moment right now as we've talked about it. Feels like it's too good. Oh,
Broken Blood Moon Ursaluna. All right, let's get through these trainers here real quick. We've got the accompanying flute. We've already seen this pop up. Got top 8, I think, in the Champions
yep,
League in
top 8,
Sporo with the
6th.
block lax. Yeah, reveal the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. You may choose any number of basic Pokemon you find there. Put those Pokemon onto their bench. Your opponent shuffles the other cards back into their deck. Azul is our now resident Blocklax expert. What do you think of the accompanying flutes?
Pretty good. Like, yeah, the card's just kind of broken to be honest. This like reminds me of when because I feel like the deck is gonna feel worse to play now though. This reminds me of when Buzzrock got Baby Buzzwole and Beastring. The deck got better, but it also got way less enjoyable to play and play against. And I think that's what we're going to see here with the accompanying flute. It's going to be way less enjoyable of a deck to play and play against because you play against it, you're like, here we go. They're going to go flute with Arvin for flute, maybe hit. And then when you're playing the deck, you're like, well, my deck is just all in on flute. And if I hit, great. If I don't hit, well, I lose. Like, that's how it kind of felt with Beast Ring Buzzwole, Baby Buzzwole. It's like, well, my Beast Ring turn is here. Do I find my Beast Rings? Nope. Okay, I lost. Okay, I got him. I won. And it was just a better way to play the deck, so you couldn't really not play it, but it made the deck way less enjoyable on both fronts of
It felt
playing
less
playing it and playing against it.
consistent, like it was less fun.
Sad.
Like
Yes. I think that's literally that's what that card is gonna do to Block Lax. Although Block Lax was never fun to play against, so it's just gonna be less it was unfun, now it's gonna be even more unfun.
we've got the Carmine supporter here. If you go first, you may play this card during your first turn, discard your hand and draw 5 cards. So it's a little bit worse of a research, but you can play it on your first turn. I think something any turbo deck could appreciate, but where it's mostly been being played currently is Lugia. And I think one of the reasons that Lugia has kind of popped back up into like tier 2 category.
Yeah, it definitely helps it quite a bit. I mean, it got other tools as well, right? It got the whatever the energy is called,
Yeah, legacy energy.
Legacy Energy, you got Blood Moon Luna, you also got the Carmine, which adds like a ton of consistency to your deck in terms of just like choosing to go first. Your opening hand's not that good. Okay, Ultra Ball for Luminate for Carmine, play Carmine, discard hand, draw 7, or draw 5 now, actually, excuse me. And then it's not a completely dead supporter either, right? You can still use it on future turns. You don't get the 7 you get from research, but 5 is still going to progress your turn reasonably. So
And a
yeah,
deck like Lugia, you don't really need that much. You just need specific things in your discard pile.
Archeops, yeah.
Yeah.
You see Archeops the Energy Power, which, being able to play an extra supporter throughout the game in the first 2 to 3 turns of the game could be a big difference maker to getting there.
There's the community center card. Wait, no, that's not the one that. Yeah, it's festival grounds. Okay, well, yeah, community center, not very good. Whatever.
But Enhanced Hammer's back.
Yeah.
Art special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon, pretty good.
Hey, how dare you skip over Cook?
Looks back. All right, and now to the festival grounds, which
And
really
well, not everyone knows what enhanced hammer does. Calm down here. It's been a long time since this card's been legal.
I just read what it did.
Oh, okay. Well,
There were
we
2
didn't talk about it.
Yeah, we
We're
didn't.
just moving on.
I mean, there's not too much to talk about. I mean, it's a way to interact with mist energy, I think is probably the biggest thing, right? And then Lugia as well, the gift in Lugia. Being having ways to like remove those energies from play and then be able to do something around them is nice for sure.
The festival grounds here, each Pokemon in play that has an energy attached, both yours and your opponent's, recovers from all special conditions and cannot be affected by any special conditions. This effect doesn't seem super good,
Yeah, just for like
but you got to
paralysis,
have it in
maybe.
play for those festival ground user I don't even remember what the ability is called
Yeah, whatever it is,
for your
festival
thwacky
lead.
deck.
Yeah, your thwacky deck. Honestly, the festival grounds could be a tech against the loyal 3 poison shenanigans. Because you could put this in play and then they can't poison themselves to
In
do
the
more
next
damage.
set.
Yeah, in the
Next
next
set.
set. The next set, there's an Okie Dokie EX that does 130 plus 130 more if it's poisoned. But if you put festival grounds in play, they can't poison themselves. So
That
that
would
would
be
actually
pretty
be a
funny.
funny counter to that deck.
The Okie dokie
Um,
does seem pretty good.
yeah, the effect of the festival grounds is kind of just irrelevant. It's just there to like, uh, you know, give this attack twice to your um festival grounds Pokemon, whatever their ability is called. You know what I'm talking about.
We've got the handheld fan. If the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, even if this Pokemon is knocked out, move in energy from the attacking Pokemon to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon.
Have seen this pop up quite a bit in the control slash disruption decks
Seems
in
like a pretty
Japan.
good card.
Yeah, and not bad for sure. I mean, putting that on the Luxray was the biggest thing that like, kind of stood out to me as a potential combo because like Luxray not getting one hit KO by too many things, I don't think. And you start to move their energy around to their bench. I don't know. Doesn't seem bad.
We've got Hassle here. You can only play this card if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Then you look at the top 8 cards of your deck, put 3 of them in your hand, then shuffle the rest of your deck. So we've seen these type of supporters in the past where it's like you can only play them if something was knocked out. Raihan, more recently, Mela is a standard legal card as well. Twins, teammates, Rosa. Where do you think Hassle fits into the mix?
I don't know. It doesn't put any more resources in play. It doesn't accelerate energy like Mela or Raihan. Raihan also gets you any one card. Rosa got you like a couple specific cards, so it doesn't seem great because it's not like it's not cheating the game. It's not guaranteeing anything or
Right.
cheating anything into the game, right? So it seems you can just play a research and probably get like whatever Hassle would get you. The only difference is that like you can't play Hassle whenever you want, so it doesn't seem great.
We've got the Hyper Aroma and A spec. You can only have one A spec in your deck. And then this one says, as an item card, you can search your deck for 3 stage 1 Pokemon, reveal them, put them into your hand. I think the Golden Go players might be excited about this one. Yeah.
Yeah, the Golden Go actually, I didn't even think about that as a potential inclusion. And then we also saw the Gardevoir list from Champions League that got second.
Yeah.
Played this as well over TM Evos, which was interesting. They also like, dude, that list just is so bizarre, man. I don't even know
Or
what to think.
Irida.
For Irida, why not just play Arvins at that point and then also include TM Evo and then play Unfair Stamp or something? I don't know. That just confused me. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe finding the Greninja is that important. I could see. Oh, do they not play any Nest Ball? No, they still have 2 Nest Ball in there as well. I'm just confused. Um, but yeah, Golden Go honestly seems like a ridiculously good partner with this, for sure. Because like that's Golden Go's problem is one finding your basics, but now you have Poffins. You have Poffins and Nest Balls, and then the bigger problem was definitely finding your Golden Go's. But here
And
you
this
go.
can also find Revavroom, baby.
Find your Rev Room. Could also find. Can it find? You can find V stars, right? Or no?
Nope. V stars are V stars. They're not stage
They're not
ones.
stage ones. Okay, never mind. So you could also find Palkia with this if you still play the Palkia in there. But yeah, I mean, I think Golden Go probably benefits the most from this. I don't. It doesn't seem like it makes Golden Go a good deck, but from like Japan results, like I don't see any Golden Go's doing well. But It definitely is, the deck that probably takes the biggest advantage of it for sure.
We've got Jamming Tower. Pokemon tools attached to Pokemon in play. Yours and your opponents have no effect. Good old reprint. This is uh, a card that has existed before. Lysander Labs, most recently. And Lysander Labs popped up, saw a little bit of play. Right now, we've got Lost Vacuum, which feels like a better option compared to this for most decks. But Jamming Tower, I could see being a thing at some point.
Yeah, when rotation hits, we'll lose Vacuum, but we'll still have Jamming Tower. I think that's probably the I guess they didn't have to give it to us right now, but it does have some other interactions in the format as well, like going up against like Quadlax, put that in play, instead of them getting rid of your Vacuum with Misfortune Sisters or the other card, I forget what it is off the top of my head, Eerie, then you can like always have your Jamming Tower, right? Because they can't interact with Jamming Tower.
We've got Kiernan here. You get to choose one, switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, or during this turn, your Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon EX or active Pokemon V.
Decent utility supporter. And having like the double effect thing is like pretty good because they could have just given it. I don't think you'd ever make a supporter just be a switch card, but you could have just made a supporter just do plus 30 damage. But giving it the option of the switch effect thing, I think is pretty good. I think it will definitely see some play for sure. Either close out some knockouts, or once again, as like something that is like protected against like the Eerie.
We've got Lana's Aid. Put up to 3 in any combination of Pokemon that don't have a rule box and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. Pretty cool card for Lost Zone decks, I think, most likely.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's like anything else that makes sense with this right now. It would just be
Anything where you
potential.
just
It would just be
want
like
a lot of
Sableye, right?
energy in your hand, but, like, energy retrieval still exists.
Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, this like Sables are, but even then, I think Lost Zone decks shouldn't be too. They're gonna want to be a more aggressive build, so they probably won't even take advantage of this card. But yeah, definitely a solid card. Like Clara was a good card for a long time. Popped up here and there in decks, and this will definitely find its way into some decks for sure.
We've got Love Ball here. Search deck for a Pokemon with the same name as one of your opponent's Pokemon in play. Reveal it and put it into your hand. Is this not the same thing as Friend Ball? Why did they give us Love Ball and not Friend Ball?
Well, Friend Ball was type, right? Same
Oh,
type.
you're right,
Friend
you're
Ball
right.
was
Yeah, yeah.
better. Friend Ball was a lot better.
Yeah, definitely.
Honestly, Love Ball. I mean, like I'm just thinking, like if like Lost Tina and Dragapult are both good enough. Oh no, but it is this name. Now this one's name. I'm thinking Friend Ball. Love Ball. I mean, it would just be like if Dragapult's popular enough, right?
Yeah,
Then you
and
could
you're
consider
playing
playing one.
Dragapults, yeah.
Yeah, and you're playing Dragapult, of course. Yeah, then you could
Or if
consider
there was,
playing
like,
one, I
some
guess.
search Pokemon that was, like, dominant in the format, like Tapu Lele GX or
Yeah,
something like that, right? But even then,
because you're probably
feels
finding this card off like an Arvin, so you're already playing like your supporter for turn.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it would just be like, is the how popular is the most popular deck in the format? And are you also playing that deck? Then at that point, maybe consider one, especially if there was like, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So
Lugia
especially if other
Mirror,
decks.
you go get your Archeops as an extra out to Archeops.
Well, if they've already got both the Arcaps in play, you probably have already lost. So
Ooh,
yeah, I don't think it's saving you.
true. We've got Lucian here. I probably
We
would
can
normally have skipped this card, but it did get top 16 at the Champions League. And
we can still skip it, I think.
okay.
Yeah, we can skip this one.
We can skip the lucky helmet too. Ogre's Mask works with the Ogre Pond stuff. You choose a Pokemon EX in your discard pile that has Ogre Pond in its name and switch it with one of your Pokemon EX in play that has Ogre Pond in its name. Any attached cards, damage counters, yada yada yada, stay on the new Pokemon.
It's kind of sad that
Unfortunately, the Ogre Pond deck just isn't a thing. It's just not good.
that's kind of sad to be honest. That Ogerpon just sucks. You'd hope that it would have been good,
Yeah,
decent,
it's
but
like the big
yeah,
mythical from the newest game. Like,
yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah. 'Cause all the stuff around it is kind of cool. Like all the ogre
yeah.
prawns are pretty interesting. The mask card is interesting. It's a super unique card. It's just not even going to be good. I don't know. Maybe we'll just need a format shift. That's always possible. But it seems like it's not because like when you look at City League results, there's a lot of like I don't know pretty mid decks that do well, but you don't see a single ogre pawn. So besides the ones that are in the Raging Bolt deck, so it just means that the power level of the card is just bad. It's just like too low. I don't think like new set is going to change that enough to make it good. So it'll probably just be always bad, unfortunately.
We've got Scoop Up Cyclone, a reprinted A spec, one of the few cards that has been, it and Master Ball, I guess, are the only cards that existed previously and then
Yeah.
also now have been reprinted. Put one of your Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your hand. This is a pretty good card, and it was decent whenever it existed previously. Um, it didn't exist in the past whenever there were 330 HP stage 2
Yeah.
Pokemon.
So definitely some more potential here, and it did pop up in, like, some Dragapult lists. I'd seen it a little bit. Um,
You could play it with Blissey.
I think I've seen, like, every ace spec in Dragapult decks, to be honest. Well, I've seen, like, Prime Catcher, Unfair Stamp, the Neo Upper Energy,
Yeah.
and Scoop Up Cyclone. So I have no Cape doesn't even seem terrible, but, yeah, I don't know which one is best. They all seem decent. None of them seem bad, I guess, in there for sure. And yeah, like you said, Blissey could play this as well. So yeah, it's good. It's a good one. It's a solid ace spec. More niche, not gonna be good and like not as universally good, but definitely solid.
We've got the secret box here. You can use this card only if you discard 3 other cards from your hand. Search your deck for an item card, Pokemon tool card, supporter card, and stadium card. Reveal them, put them in your hand, then shuffle your deck.
Um,
It's a
yeah,
lot to
honestly,
ask to
we could have
discard
skipped this
3
one.
cards from your hand. We should have skipped it?
Yeah, well, like it's just
It's an ace
bad.
spec.
Oh, bad cards are bad cards. Doesn't matter if it's an ace spec. Like the way you find Wonder Secret Box is with a supporter, and if you played your supporter for turn, you can't use the supporter you get off a Secret Box. Tool cards are okay, but you can't even play Hero's Cape because you're playing Secret Box. Stadium cards are pretty mid as well. Like you're discarding 3 cards after you've played a supporter to find this card to get nothing. Like this card sucks. Like it's so bad.
Yeah, I feel that. We've got the survival brace. If the Pokemon this card is attached to has full HP, would be knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon. It is not knocked out, and its remaining HP becomes 10. Then discard this card. So I think this card is pretty good. The main problem is that Lost Vacuum is a card that exists in the format.
Yeah, and even then after that we do have the jamming card, but it is a good card. And I think it'll like sneak its way into either like a winning deck or a very high placing deck, but then immediately after that, like, it's kind of like, like Block Lax doing well, like me winning with Block Lax. It's like, well, people are just gonna add Spiritombs and you probably shouldn't roll up with the card at the next event. I think Survival Brace will have its moment like that, where it's like maybe some kind of weird control type deck that can abuse it really well. And then the next tournament, people are gonna all have a vacuum in their deck to deal with it, and then can't play it anymore. But it'll make its rounds.
Just a few more cards here. We've got the Unfair Stamp, where you can only use it if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Each player shuffles their hand into their deck. You draw 5 cards, and your opponent draws 2 cards. Pretty dang good.
Yeah, pretty good. But I haven't been seeing it. Like I'm even looking at some results right now from the Champions League. There's not that much unfair stamp going around. Um, Although hold up, I did just see a Wonder Box in a ancient deck. I could see it working there. You do discard the cards. It does find you a capsule, finds you a Pokestop.
Find you a Sada.
Honestly, it sounds like it might be better than Drum. I don't know if that's better than just playing a Prime Catcher though. And then Sada for next turn, I guess. All right, the card still sucks. I mean, if it's only good in Ancient Box sucks. So it's not like it makes like, yeah. If a deck is a bad deck playing a bad card, I mean that's nothing new.
Hey, listen, Ancient Box's worst matchup is not as popular next format.
True. That is fair. But yeah, I mean that's true. Unfair Stamp though, yeah, I think it's I mean it doesn't seem to be it's gonna have the impact that Jake Gearhart was afraid of on Twitter. But to be
Classic.
honest, I think it's probably good that nothing that Jake has said is gonna happen has happened because the game sounds really unfun if Jake was ever right. So I do like and enjoy Jake's enthusiasm and passion for the game. It's great to have players like him in the game, being having like this kind of online presence he does. But I think we should all be very thankful that Jake has been wrong up to this point so far, and
True.
we should probably hope that Jake is never right because every time Jake goes on
A doom and
or
gloom rant.
yeah, not even rant. It's more like what would you even call it? Like over like a multiple day uh
Tirade.
tirade, a gloom and doom.
It's almost like a manifesto or something. Jake Gearhart's Twitter is just his manifesto.
Yeah, thankfully Jake's been wrong up to this point, and it seems like with the unfair stamp, also probably wrong as well. Because yeah, looking at the results from Japan, it's in a couple decks, but not in everything. Maximum Belt seems to be pretty popular in non-Dragapult decks like the Tinas and stuff, so they can one hit KO Dragapult. So Good card for sure though, and I'm glad it exists because I think it's just another good ace spec. And then final ace spec here with the legacy energy, right?
Yeah. And as long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides every type of energy, but only one energy at a time. And then if the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, that player takes one less prize card. And then you can only use that effective legacy energy once per game.
Yes, this has been a big boost in terms of power, not consistency, which is what the deck lacks in Lugia. But Lugia's problem is not power. So I don't know how much better this actually makes Lugia, but it does give you options like Iron Hands or being able to
Well,
attack with
I wonder if you could
Luminion.
argue that it does boost the consistency a little bit because Lugia currently, most people are only playing one Luminion, and you really kind of dread putting that thing in play because when you put that thing in play, it's usually your lose con. It's usually the way you're ultimately going to lose the game is they take two prizes on the Luminion. Now you can use your Luminion aggressively, turn one, go get the Carmine, right? Which is a boost to consistency that Lugia gets, having access to Carmine on turn one. And then you can put that Luminion back into the deck with the legacy energy. So it's no longer that liability potential.
Well, I think that is more for so that's something you can like plan to do on like turn 2 though. Like that's something that's like for more developed situations that come up where it's like, okay, I can now afford to attack with Luminian and put it back to the deck. Because if you just do that turn 2, there's gonna boss KO an Archeops and you lose the game because you can't accelerate energy into play. Or counter catcher, I guess, with Dragon Ball or something. So
Mhm.
um
Well,
like having that
potentially,
option
right?
is good.
Because
Well, having the option is good, but I don't think that's like drastically affecting your consistency as the deck. Like, your problem is still just getting 2 Archeops in the discard pile. No one was not putting Luminion in play to not get 2 Archeops in the discard pile before. I
yeah.
think Carmine is the bigger part of that maybe, but, yeah, I don't know if the gaining the more powerful options like the hands or the ability to put Luminion back, of course, yeah, like, that is gonna be something you're gonna do, but, yeah, I don't know if that makes it I guess you also have the Blood Moon Ursaluna. So you have all this new power, but no new well, that's not true. You have Carmine. Carmine is a new consistency, right? A lot of new power, a little bit of new consistency. Will it be enough for Lugia? I guess is gonna be the question. Also, Legacy Energy really good with Diplin. Check it out. Broken deck.
Azul obsessed with the Diplin. Yeah, I was kind of surprised we haven't seen this pop up in like Dragapult lists, right? With the mixed energy requirement, right? But I guess your other A spec options are just better.
Yeah. Also, a decent amount of Dragon Ball lists play an enhanced hammer, don't they?
Yeah.
Like combat the Neo upper energy and mist energies and stuff, so they can like TM Devo aggressively. So,
This is called Legacy Energy, by the way.
what did I say?
Neo Upper Energy.
Oh yeah, that's what the enhanced hammer is for. Is for the Neo upper energy.
What's
And
playing Neo Upper Energy, Azul?
Dragon Ball.
I don't think that's true.
You want to click on the most recent first place City League champion Dragon Ball list.
That might be the only one that I've seen that has Neo Upper Energy.
I've seen it in a couple. I've seen it in a couple.
I think
Not
it's
any of the ones
I
that are
think
like
you're
star
definitely playing
stars.
Enhanced Hammer mostly for Mist Energy.
Yeah. But if they got the Neo upper, you may as well use it.
Sure.
You're gonna hold on to your enhanced hammer just because they put a Neo upper energy. You're like, I don't respect that card enough to use this. You can have your Neo upper energy. You're gonna lose
Just
anyways.
let him have it. Let him have it.
Yeah, you just like ultra ball away the enhanced hammer in front of them and stare at them.
Well, that is our Twilight Masquerade set review. Seems like a pretty good set overall, to be honest.
Decent.
Give it a rating, ABC.
I mean, it's gotta be an A, I think. I
I
gotta
was
give
gonna
it
go
an A.
B.
If we're going out of 3, I think it's an A.
Well, I mean, you could give it a D or an F. I was talking like letter grades like school.
Oh, letter grades like school. Oh, okay.
I know you didn't go to school, but
I thought you just meant like out of A, B, and C. I guess I would give it a B then. Yeah,
yeah, I think
give
it's
it
a
a B then.
solid B set.
Yeah, we'll give it a B then.
Yeah.
I thought you were just like saying like out of 3. It's gotta be an A if it's out of 3. But we're going like that. We'll give it a B.
Yeah.
A lot of
Solid
powerful
set for
cards.
sure. Definitely excited for NAIC and seeing what's gonna happen there.
Yeah. Wonder who's gonna come up with the best anti Dragon Ball deck.
We
Should
are,
exist.
buddy.
All right, let's do it. Let's cook.
All right. Well, thanks so much to everyone for listening to this week's episode of Uncommon Energy. Congrats again to Azul. If you made it to this point, make sure you leave a comment on the episode saying, Congrats, Azul. Uh, for getting the dub with the Snorlax. And yeah, if you enjoy the podcast, you want to show your support, the best way to do it is to leave us a like, a review, a rating, comment, subscribe. All those things help us out a ton, and it helps more people discover our show. If you want to stay up to date with us and everything going on, the best place to do it is over on Twitter. You can follow myself at Chipritchy, Azul at Azul underscore GG, and the podcast is at Uncommon underscore Energy.
I appreciate the support as always. Good luck to everyone playing in Santiago this weekend. And we'll catch you all next week, 7 a.m. Eastern on Wednesdays.
And we'll see some of you right now in the bonus episode.